Hi, I'm Rick Lobdell. Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Decorative Concrete Expo. Welcome Jeff Kirt to the show. Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. Today's going to be a fun one. I don't even know where this is going to go. I have no plan. It is Friday, and it is Take a Shot Friday with Mr. Jeff Kirt.
That's right.
You know, it's so funny that a couple weeks ago, I posted a video about the fact that we've been doing shots together on Fridays and let everybody know that over the last, actually, I didn't even say it, but the last 2 years of Concrete Decor shows, we've been sneaking shots behind the scenes during the show while we're doing demonstrations. Not getting hammered, not having a ton of alcohol, but just a shot here and there to celebrate the fact that we're having fun together, that we're showing the world what can be done, and just having an exciting time with all these people that know us, that want to come see us, that want to come say hi. It's been so awesome doing that with you. And then last week, Dave Ribello texted me, ready to do the podcast with me. He's like, "Are we doing a shot?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, like you're doing shots with Jeff. Why am I not doing a shot?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then like, you know, at the end of the show, he's like, "So am I in on Fridays now too?" So I don't know if I accidentally created Friday shots with Rick and Kirt and Jeff, you know, who knows where this is going to go. I don't even know if I can invite multiple people into like a video chat. Like, what are we going to do? Zoom shots with Jeff and Kirt, or Jeff and Rick now, you know,
both of them.
How funny that would be. But welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah. It would be horrible if you couldn't add multiple people on and then you're the one doing, like, you get a group of people that all want to do it and then you're having to do 6 shots. Everybody's doing one.
That's a good point. Yeah. It could go really bad for us quickly.
Go south. Yeah,
it kind of did 2 Fridays ago, didn't it? Speaking of.
That was great. That was I really enjoyed our conversation, and I always do, really, because we do have good conversations. So, we
do. It's been a long time coming. You know, we've worked hard at this relationship, and I think that that's an interesting thing to kind of explain to people. Not necessarily explain like what it is about the two of us, but just in general, as you meet people and as you network through this industry, you just never know who's going to become a closer friend or not. You know, who's going to be an acquaintance and who's going to become a best friend. You really never know where it's going to go. And I had to work hard at this one. You know, I really did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think you've talked about it. I know about the years at the expo, you know, multiple years. I forget what we thought about it one night and we were trying to figure it out. But
so to that same point, the first question I always ask is, when was the first time we met? And it was at Concrete Decor, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Yeah. In 16.
I think you're right, because like you said the first year you were behind this, like not behind the scenes, but down on the side doing a mailbox and stuff. I really think it was when you started doing the wall that we started to get to know each other, and interior in the back section, like where they made the fake door and stuff like that. I think
we were closer there, yeah.
Or at least that's when we started to talk. How do I explain this? For the record, to everybody listening, it's a weird world for us. Being a part of these demos and being a part of Decocrete and being a part of behind the scenes. And what they don't realize is, first and foremost, we are the only two that I know of. And I was the first. No, actually, technically someone else was the first, but I think right about the same time. But I was one of the first, and you were right there with me after that, of the only non-employees of Decocrete that are doing training classes with them. Yes. You know, Jeff Hirschberger does everything, not necessarily himself. He has his own team, but he does all the training classes. And sometimes Jason's involved when they're doing the stamp and things like that too. But we are the only ones doing a unique thing. You do the vertical carving and I do the engraving. Yeah. We are the only non-employees of Decocrete that are involved with their training classes, which to me is a huge honor, because that really shows how serious they are about us in our relationship with them. We're not just an artist. We're not just anybody because they want to get something going. This is not a one-time thing. We've been doing this for years with them. We have an incredible relationship with that organization.
They're family.
We are, and that's rare.
Yeah.
And I have mad respect for them because even to the same point, they don't take advantage of it. It's not like they go, well, because you're family, you can take care of doing this trip, or you can take care of what you need, and you're on your own. No, they help us with everything every time we go there, whether it is a training class or the show. They're always involved with everything we're doing. They're always there for us, and they take care of everything we need all the time. And it's an amazing feeling.
Yes. Yeah. It's just I look forward to it. That's a few times out of the year, the expo and the training, then in the summer when we do the vertical, and I look forward to it because I miss the guys. After that, then you got a long period between the when the expo, or for me anyway. I'm not sure what month you do yours, but mine's in like usually July or August. So then after that, then it's that whole rest of the year, and then into the early spring before I get to see them again. So it's nice.
It's funny you say that because that's an interesting point. For me, for a while there, it was World of Concrete, January, beginning of February. It was at one point it was my training class, and then it was the show, the Decorative Expo, and then it turned into the Decorative Expo, and then it was my class in April. So I was boom, boom, boom. Either way you looked at it for 3 months in the beginning of the year, boom, boom, boom with them. And then I had a long time before I got to see him again.
Yeah.
And now it is World of Concrete, the Decorative Concrete Expo, and then my class has moved to November. And I like that. So now I have a few months in between. I get to see him a few months in between. I get to see him a few, and I like that gap now. And I wish I got to see more of the team, but it's fun. Whatever location they send us to do training class, it's always great to go in there and get to know the manager and get to know the team, because that's a separate relationship outside of Jeff and Jason and the core of the organization. It's great to know the other guys that manage this location or that location, depending on where they send us for each class.
Yeah. But then you see them at the expo and you created that relationship. So then, then it's like, you saw them yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, like it is with the rest of the crew and guys there. So yeah. That's what makes it so much fun, because each person you talk to or interact with from Decocrete, they have their own individual personalities, and you have your own individual relationships with each person, and it's kind of fun because it's like there's so many of them there, and you know them all, so it's just, it turns into this crazy camaraderie,
So here's a tough question for you, not to put you on the spot, but how many of them do you remember their names?
I'm horrible at that. I mean, it's pretty sad.
No, it's a tough one because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they always come up and they're like, what do you need, Rick? Or what's going on, Rick? And I'm like,
go. Yeah. Why don't you wear name tags or something? Put name tags on these guys.
Jason,
help us old parts out, man.
Jason and Jeff, if you're listening, put name tags on all your employees during your show, during your training classes. We need your help.
Or on their shirts, whatever, anywhere I can just easily see it without them noticing.
The easiest way I remember all of them is when they're Facebook friends of mine. If they're not Facebook friends of mine, it gets harder and harder to remember them.
Yeah.
And this is no joke. Faces. This is no joke at all. I'm not going to say the name. One of their members is one of my friends on Facebook, and I didn't know it for the last 2 years. And he keeps commenting or liking, or I see that he's following what I'm doing, and I keep going, who is that? And I'm like, why do I know that guy? And I click on him, and I'm like, shoot, what's he do with that?
Yeah.
I can't remember every time. It drives me crazy, but
yeah,
I'm getting there.
You always have that. Yeah. You guys have those some of those things that always just, you can't retain.
Now, with the same point, when we have been doing these shows for years together, not together, separately, but I mean, both of us have been doing these shows.
Yeah.
I feel I have the same problem with the amount of people that are always talking to me and trying to remember names. And I assume you have the same thing too, because we're so busy with what we're doing that people come up and talk to us and they just assume we're going to remember them every single year. Do you have
Yeah.
that same problem too?
The problem I have is when either I'm doing a project or I'm at the expo, fully immersed in what we're doing. Each person, is so. And I don't eat. I've brought you food. We've talked about we should probably eat because we just kind of power through and we don't stop because you get into that rhythm and you don't want to break that look like cycle that you're in or that rhythm. So, um, I lost my train of thought. See,
2 shots in and you've already lost your train of thought.
what was the point of that? What were we
The point was
about?
talking about like remembering the people that are talking to you all the time. They come up and say hi to you and they just
Oh
assume
yeah.
that we
So
remember
even
them.
the attendees and stuff. So if you're working and you want to, I personally want to try and talk, but at the same time, and generally do, but at the same time, then I lose that rhythm and I lose that focus that I already had in my mind that I knew I was getting ready to do on whatever I'm doing. And then I got to kind of rework back into that. And then when that happens 20, 30, 40 times in a day, it's hard to get back on track, just because that's just the way I work. If I don't stay on something, I get sidetracked and kind of forget. I walk back up and everything looks different than when I walked away from it.
That's a really interesting thing I never thought about because of how different our worlds are. That's honestly, I don't have that problem because
Yeah,
mine's all mathematical and I just go right back to where I'm at in the math, or I go right back to where I'm at in the painting, or I go right back, whether it's the drawing,
yep,
the cutting, whatever it is, there's no confusion as to where I'm at in my process at all.
yeah,
I've never
yeah,
thought about it that way before. That's a really interesting point because you're doing vertical and you're carving. I know my issue is to say this word loosely, but because sometimes I feel like I'm carving when I'm engraving too. I sometimes treat my angle grinder like I'm carving the concrete with that
yeah.
machine as I'm cutting it.
Hmm.
And it's a different terminology or a different way to use that word,
Yeah,
but you are carving nonstop through that process and you are visualizing. And I learned so much watching you this year about that point because up until this year, you've been on that side of the building and I've been on this side of the building and we're not
yeah,
really next to each other. Last year
yeah.
we were close enough. Actually, I don't remember how close we were to each other, but I kept bringing the shots to you or you kept coming to me for the shot. We weren't right beside each other like we were this year.
No, yeah. I don't think
We've
we were
never
too
been that
far, but
close to
yeah,
each other. It's always
yeah,
been complicated when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I've never got to watch you live in person do your thing.
Mm,
And, you know, it was hard for me to watch this year because the beginning of your process, I was like, it
what is that?
looked good at the beginning. And I was like, okay, I see where he's going, sure, whatever. And I walked away and I really wasn't paying attention because I was doing my thing.
Sure.
It wasn't until I took a photograph of yours that I was like, that's not what I saw at all. Not even close to what I envisioned you were doing
Really? Yeah.
because I didn't understand the carving. I don't. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not like
Sure.
I mean, it's not that I don't understand it. It's that it's not my thing to do. I can't. I don't look at it the way you do. It's interesting
Yeah.
to talk about, like, from an artistic point of view, how different our processes are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different. Yeah. It's a whole different deal. Although as you said, you feel like you're kind of carving with the grinder and stuff like that, and you're manipulating a medium. So that makes sense to me. And some people come back the next day after the vertical's hard and come in with a grinder of some sort, or Dremel or something, and they'll do some other stuff. So, there might be some similarities there. You can get, you got 4 inches of concrete or whatever it is you are working on. You could, essentially go really deep and create this 3D looking thing with different elevations in it. So,
No,
potentially,
that would be really
right,
complicated to do.
potentially you could, but that's not what you want to do. But you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's all visual, and yours is more mathematical. But at the end of the day, it's a visual. You turn mathematical into a visual, uh, project that is unreal. Like the at the expo, I was the same as you. I'm looking over like, what is this end result? I'd kind of glance. I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it, because the same thing what you just said. It's like we don't see through each other's eyes because we're doing different things. But at the end, same with me. I was like, well, I finally made it over there, and it was unreal. I was like, this is, first, how do you think of something like that? Where does that come from? you know, with you, I get it. I get it.
It comes from a lot of
I'm
research.
that brain of yours.
No,
Yeah.
it just comes from a lot of research.
Well, you got to put it all together.
Well, okay. So here's an interesting point to that question. Okay, so let me throw that back at you for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna run in a couple different directions with this for a second.
All right.
So, okay, how do I say this? I get that it's complicated, that you're trying to wrap your head how the heck I come up with it. Okay, so first and foremost, it's a lot of research. That the bottom line to it is, I research ideas all the time when it comes to geometric shapes and geometric patterns and ideas.
Yeah.
Two is that once I see something I like, yeah, I get your point. It's complicated to figure out the how. It's not hard to figure out the why. It's hard to figure out the wow. I mean the how. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't make it as complicated. Like, I love talking about math and acting like I'm smart. I'm not. This is all basics. It's not complicated at all. It's just the fact that you've never tried to look it up before. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that if I sent you a couple of links and you looked at it, you'd be like, oh, I could do that too. Honestly.
I'd that grinder would run off in front of me, and I'd make some squiggly line or something on the concrete.
Okay, so vice versa. Do you think that I can all of a sudden throw some mud on a wall and just carve it and make it look as good as you? Hell no.
That's where the respect comes from, between us, and that's where that's how a portion of our friendship evolved out of that.
Sure,
just respect.
So here I got a question for you. I've never asked this. I don't ask this question in this industry very often, but I want to see what you say to this. Okay.
Oh no.
Again, I have a master's in painting. My education is a different.
We know, Rick.
No, that's not my point. It's not my point. I'm just preemptively bringing up why I think about these things. Okay.
Okay.
When you look at art, no matter how you reference art, whether it's vertical concrete, whether it's engraved concrete, whether it is a painting on the wall, whether it is a gallery show you go to, whether it is a movie you're watching, okay, no matter how you look at the definition of art, would you rather see, and this is a trick question, I'm warning you ahead of time, this is a trick question. Let's see your answer.
You're making me think right now after.
Would you rather see a good idea, and I'm not even going to say the English properly because I have to say it this way. So sorry ahead of time for anybody that's an English major. I'm not using proper English. Would you rather see a good idea done bad or a bad idea done good?
I like I like bad ideas done good.
Why?
The feeling and the ability of being able to overcome something, rather than the feeling of disappointment when you have a grand idea that goes south.
So you're willing to accept a great idea even if it looks like shit, just because they came up with this great idea.
I'm willing to understand that that happens.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm a underdog kind of guy. That's how I'm visualizing it in my head.
Okay.
A bad idea that turns out good is like you have to fight for that, and you have to work hard for that, to bring it to good. Where if you have a great idea, it really doesn't matter. Everybody has, you always visualize in your head this momentous idea that you want to do, and whether you are able to take it on or not able to take it on is up to you. But if you take on this great deal and you ruin it, it's not so much ruin it, but it doesn't turn out maybe like you wanted. It's good and bad, right? A for the effort, and maybe next time. But when you're put in a position where you maybe know that this isn't what you want to do, or you just know in your heart it's a bad idea, but you still do it and you pull it off, that to me is that's awesome.
Okay, now, and I'm not giving you the answer to the question yet. With that said, and you don't need to call out anybody, how much of the competition of the SmackDown did you see good ideas done bad or bad ideas done good? Did you see either side, or did it all was good to you and it didn't matter?
Oh.
I set you up on that one, didn't I?
Yeah. You put me on the spot, man.
People want to know what Jeff Kirt thinks. Come on.
I doubt it. You don't want to know what's going on in here. What I saw was, I saw a lot of people taking a big leap of faith and putting themselves out there in a stressful situation, and in a situation that were, there weren't a bunch of schlums in the competition, right?
No, there wasn't. The competition was great across the board. Like, I'm asking this question as a more of a joke. Like, I understand that we're not going to like talk shit about anybody. We have no reason to. Everybody put their shit out there. It's more of the conversation and the fun of the conversation. And that's why I ask it that way. But when you look back on some of the designs, because I know the reason why I'm asking you this is your hardcore attention to detail on the vertical world. Yeah. And there was only two of us that didn't have vertical. And Rachel had vertical, but if that's what you call it, because it wasn't a vertical carving. Sure. So out of the 8 contestants, 5 of them were hardcore vertical. And so there's nothing wrong with you acknowledging the fact of your expertise in that field, because we all know you're one of the top in the field when it comes to understanding the attention to detail when it comes to vertical carving. So there's nothing wrong with that. And again, I'm not saying like, oh, this person was terrible at what they did. No, I'm not asking that. But from your point of view, when you saw what you saw, did you think that there was a couple great ideas that were done? And did you think that there was a couple that were like, okay, that's not that great of an idea, but damn, they really brought it when it came to the detail?
Well, of course, I think I brought it when it came to detail.
Of course you did.
Compared to everybody else. And every individual should say that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Because you're proud of what you do, and you should be. Why wouldn't you? You wouldn't be there if you weren't.
Generally, I'm not. Generally, I don't like anything I do. I walk away
You're as bad as I am.
disappointed. I do. It's crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank
You
God that people like it or whatever. But
you think it's bad with our industry? You ought to have a conversation with me about my personal artwork. Completely different. I'm
yeah,
so like you think I have an ego or I have an arrogance or I have a confidence in what we do in concrete.
I'm over that.
In artwork, it's like, it's a whole nother level of issue for me when it comes to my satisfaction in what I do in any way, shape, or
Yeah,
form at all.
and I think most people are like that. Maybe it's it's well for me anyway. It's pretty seldom that I walk away happy. And at the expo, believe it or not, the guys I had with me, Jesse,
Three of my
the
students, FYI.
yes, yes,
Yes.
um, so that was cool too.
Now, what I
But,
assume they're students of yours too.
whatever.
Did they take your
I've
classes?
got a funny story about that
Okay, go
too.
ahead.
But we talked about that also. I think we at one of our conversations. But um, I was just happy they were there and willing on their own accord to sit there and mix the daylights out of mud for me.
And listen to you.
And were concerned about everything they were doing. We were doing and that. And I mean, and I didn't get in on Tuesday. I think I've heard people thought I came in on Tuesday. I did not. I didn't get there until Wednesday morning, and didn't have a thing except for the concrete poured. That I didn't do. They did previous, so I
That
had to
yes.
fight back a little bit.
No, no, I think that is a huge point because again, as much as I want to sit there and say it was built to beat me, and go back to my arrogance and say I should have won that and I didn't because of this. That's not true.
No, no,
It's not
yeah,
true at all.
no,
But I want to believe that because of the fact of originally this was planned to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then out of
right,
nowhere, they were like, well, a couple guys got to pour concrete, so they got to pour on Tuesday. So we're going to let everybody come in on Tuesday now. And all of a sudden, it changed everything for us because it was like, yeah,
yeah,
but I planned everything to a T
like what? Yeah,
because we do.
yeah,
We know what it takes to do what we're doing, and we know how long it
yep,
should take to do it. We're professionals at what we do. And that is something that was very frustrating for me was that they changed the schedule after we agreed to this. And it is what it is. Like I don't care. It's not like I wouldn't do it again. I'm not making fun of Decocrete. I'm not mad at them. It's just it is that the it feels like they made sure that these youngsters that have never done a competition before had the opportunity to compete against us instead of being on our plane because they should have
yeah,
been on our plane. Tough shit. You should have done it this way because this was the rules.
yeah. I was I was not at all in. I wasn't concerned about winning the thing. Really, that wasn't my motivation because at this point, sometimes I'm like, am I going to be invited back? It's just been me this whole time doing vertical. Maybe some fresh blood, whatever. I kind of was resistant to be put into the competition, but I
I was
wanted
too.
whatever spot they needed me in or wanted me in or whatever. I'm there for them. And I think when we were talking, it was there. It wasn't really close to being full yet. So Jeff approached me and talked about it, and then I went ahead and submitted, and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of people that started getting in it, and it filled up, and so um, honestly, I was kind of happy at the end. One part of me, another part of me when they were getting ready to announce the winners, and I kind of at the very end, what would that have been on Friday afternoon when I knew that I was as done as I could be. Nothing else I would have done would have enhanced it to the point for any reason, to sway any votes or anything. I mean, I think, I don't even know where it ended up, but that was the first time that I actually walked around the whole place, the 8 of us in that area, because I didn't want to walk around and like gawk. And I don't know if those people knew who I was, walking by and looking or
Everybody
whatever.
knows
But
who
just
you
for
are, Jeff. Nice try.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, they do.
So I didn't want to be gawking at their stuff as they're doing it, thinking that I'm like, ugh, like, or whatever. It was stuff in my head. So I made several laps around there a couple times just to be able to, sometimes in verticals you want to stay with it, and sometimes you just need to walk away and then come back to it. So at those points in the process, I would walk around and just kind of look and stuff. And for me, great concepts. Everything was great concepts. All the vertical and stuff. But I did see, and just to be honest, and I hope nobody runs with this or turns it into something, because I'm not. I don't think I'm anything special, so I don't want it to be like that. But I saw where a little more experience in carving would be, they're going to be good.
I think that's a good way to say it. I think that's the best way to say
it. At this point in their career of carving, I know a lot of them are, still pretty young as far as that carving, industry, being in it and taking on projects and all that stuff.
And taking on the competition of that level, yes.
Yeah, especially a competition, So and that's just through my eyes. And I'm sure everybody was proud of their own stuff. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of their stuff as they do more, because I mean, that dragon was unreal. I thought that was incredible.
Right.
And that's unique and hard to do. And, it was super cool. So that vision and that, if you have that vision, you need the experience of carving. You just have to do it. It's like anything else, like riding a bike. You're not going to, first time you ride a bike one time and you got it mastered, the kids get on, they fall down, they get up, they fall down, they get up. It's the same process. The more you do, the better you're going to get. And so I saw potential for sure.
So I'm going to tell you the answer to the question.
So all that was just nonsense?
It was not nonsense. It was a great conversation, but there is an actual answer to this question.
There is. Okay.
There is
so
there is only one answer. You are wrong. And it's not because it's the other answer. The only answer to the question is, if it's not a great idea done great, it's not worth talking about at all.
So you just cut it off. Yeah, you just. Yeah.
That's why I warned you ahead of time that there's only one answer, and I'm setting you up. And it's something I had to learn in grad school. Like this goes back to my education, to my world, to what I learned, because there's a ton of us going to art school that have great ideas, but we're shit artists.
Yeah.
And I literally watched a few of the people that were in school with me that had shit ideas that were incredible at painting. I mean, phenomenal detail, but they had nothing idea-wise to build off of that ability. Yeah. And I was the great idea done bad all the time. I was the guy that had all these crazy ideas, but I didn't understand how to get there, let alone I was colorblind. I'm sure that didn't help at all. But I'm not, it's amazing how much people are sitting there going, like you talk to my old employees and stuff like that about my attention to detail, that I have all this attention to detail, and they don't really understand that I was the sloppiest of my class. Yeah, I was the worst of my class. I barely survived grad school. I'm not the best. I'm nowhere near the best. I'm not even close. On top of that, my class looks at what I do as remedial art, not master's level art in any way, shape, or form. They used to call my artwork, there's a whole field of what I was doing called lowbrow art. And lowbrow art is uneducated art, but has a lot of good qualities to it, to where it can reach the gallery world and actually be successful, but it's not good enough to be the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. It's not. It's quality wise is crap, but they have great ideas, but their quality is not as good as where we should be if we have a high education. Now, most lowbrow art is not uneducated, but lower education of like not hitting that master's level and everything like that. So for me to go through all of that training and then be deemed a lowbrow art is a slap in the face, an insult. And it's kind of how I feel like my career in decorative concrete really is. And it's not because of the concrete industry. It's because of the art industry looking at what I'm doing and going, well, that's cool because no one's ever done it, but it's nowhere near the level of your education in any way, shape, or form. And it bothers me all the time.
That's unfair. It's just unfair. There's hobo art out there that is very sought after, that talk about low brow, but it's sought after, and it's these homeless people that find different things as they're on the streets, and they put it together and make this art out of it, and it's wanted.
Yeah.
And so
an elephant can do a painting and it's wanted more than my work.
Right. Yeah. So
okay.
Lowbrow, highbrow.
All right. Before I go on with that, I think we need a shot break.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
Mine's ready.
I got to pour mine.
I'm waiting.
Like you are.
We're going to pause for a station notification.
Lowbrow tequila pour.
We'll be right back after these short messages. This moment is brought to you by Herradura Extra Aneo Tequila.
Where's
We
my
both
label?
are
There it
drinking
is.
the same thing because I introduced it to this man, and
Thank you for that.
it has been quite a ride ever since then.
Yes. Watch out, my clothes might come off.
That would be epic. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. You're always awesome to hang out with. Cheers, buddy.
Absolutely. So much better warm.
So much better.
So
So
much
glad
better.
you finally listened to me on that.
What a bad idea that was.
What he's talking
Thought
about,
I was
everybody,
onto
is last year when I introduced him to my tequilas, because I meet so many people that are whiskey drinkers, and they're like, no, I don't like tequila. And I'm like, I promise you I have tequila that is comparable to whiskey in a different way. Like, you have to look at it different because I'm hardcore about tequilas. And I don't remember if you were a tequila drinker or not back then when I introduced you, but you were just like, oh my God, this is smooth as hell. Like, this is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So then we go home and we start this Friday thing, and you were like, I'm going to put it in the freezer. I'm like, why? Right away. I'm like, why would you do that? You don't need to do that. And I was like, okay, whatever you want to do, buddy.
Right.
So it took a whole entire year.
Let me make my own mistakes.
Yes. It was a bad idea done great. No, it was a great idea done bad the entire time. All right. So
I learned.
Here's a cool little story about art for you that you'll appreciate. I don't think you've seen this documentary, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it to you and everybody listening. But there's a great documentary called Exit Through the Gift Shop. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
Okay. Banksy made it. You know who Banksy is?
I know.
Okay.
Yep.
You know who Shepard Fairey is?
No.
You do. Obey.
Oh.
Obey t-shirts. Andre the Giant. The whole idea. That's Shepard Fairey.
Okay.
He came up with that in college. So there's the two of them, and there's another guy called Space Invader, and there's a couple other street artists. These are all street artists that are painting on walls, plastering posters on walls, high up on places, getting arrested all the time for it. Banksy never let anybody see who he was for a very long time, all this kind of stuff, right? So back in I don't know when this video was done. I would assume it's the 90s. This guy started hanging out with Shepard, and started following him and started recording everything he was doing, and then got introduced to Space Invader and eventually got introduced to Banksy and stuff, because there's a whole underground art scene going on at that time. On a side note to this story, when I was living in Savannah, I knew about Shepard Fairey. I had learned about his artwork and stuff, and what we were doing in school, and not that he was in our school because he was too new, but we're always watching what's new, what's now, what's going on, right? And so one day I'm driving down in Savannah, Georgia. I'm driving down the road, and I get to a red light, and I look up and I'm like, why is there an Obey sticker way up there on this pole? And then I go to the next stoplight, and I'm like, why is there an Obey sticker over there? And as you drove through the town, you started to see all these little stickers of Obey, which is Andre the Giant, and it says Obey under it because of how he was abused. It's a social commentary to how he was abused through all of the stuff he went through and how he had to obey the man and stuff like that. And that was before social media, before internet, all that. Well, not before internet, but beginning of internet. So what Shepard Fairey would do is he would send out stickers or pictures of his images to wherever he was going to do a show. And he would somehow through the network find people that would be willing to plaster him up and advertise the fact that he was coming. Yeah. So I went to his art show, got to meet him, bought a sticker, still on my desk that I use in my art studio still to this day and everything like that. But the great thing about this video is the guy that's filming it doesn't know what he's doing. So he films hours and hours and hours and months of video and just keeps putting him in a box, never edits, never does anything with the videos.
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, Banksy's like, well, what the hell? Like, what was the point of you filming all of us if you're not going to put a documentary together?
Yeah.
So he gets access to the videos and he makes this documentary called Exit Through the Gift Shop with all the video footage of this guy did.
Oh, wow.
During the whole movie, if you don't know any better, you think you're watching a mockumentary. You think it's fake. You think there's no way this is true. This could not happen, right?
Yeah.
By the end of this, the guy that's filming everything believes that he is now a better artist than they are. And he starts his own art.
Oh, wow.
And Banksy's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So the point of the story is the guy that filmed it all is called Mr. Brainwash. He's made millions making artwork since then. And his artwork is shit. Total crap. Great ideas done bad constantly. I have not seen a single idea done well at all in all his artwork I've seen. And he's worth millions. Never went to art school. Just did all of this research with these guys, learned from these guys and said, I have an idea. And it's almost no different than, like, for example, Kid Rock. I love Kid Rock. And Kid Rock will admit to it. He took everybody else's ideas and turned them into art and made his music based on what everybody else already did. And there's nothing wrong with what he did. He did a great job at it. He had a great idea and he did a great job at it, honestly.
Yeah.
This guy has the same theory. He took what these guys were teaching him and he went and said, I have a way to sell art, and made his own art. And it worked.
He's a better businessman.
Yes, but he wasn't. He became a businessman.
Yeah.
And it's all crap. I mean, it's so bad. And he called himself Mr. Brainwash to make it even worse. It's so bad.
So, that's a good, a good reason to do art for a guy like that is because he was a good businessman or sales guy that could schlep a bunch of crap. According, some people might have liked it. Obviously, he's made millions, so people buy it. But is that because they liked it or because he was a good businessman or salesman?
That's a very good question.
So what do you do your art for? and what does everybody do their art for? For monetary reasons, or to put it out there, uh, you know, to the world to see, and that be it.
Well, it's a really
So
good
your
question because
motives.
I can tell you I have multiple projects and I've had multiple people talk to me behind the scenes going, how much did you charge for that? And when I tell them, they're like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
but they would have said no if I would have said what it's really worth.
Mm. That's a yeah. That's a good one to come. You know, just because that's the price that you set, and that person says no because it's too high, that means they just can't afford you.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that you have to come down with your price for what you put out.
But you have two ways to look at it. You can sit
Is
there
it
and
money?
say, you know what, I'm making a decent amount off this project and I want to do it for the portfolio, for the documentation, for the awards, for everything else that's going on.
Yeah,
Or I can say, sorry, but I've got to dumb it down to your price and not do the level that I'm capable of doing, even though it's only going to take me a couple more hours, not days. You
yeah,
know, it's one thing if it's going to take me more days, that's a different conversation. But it's a matter of if it's going to take me a couple more hours, what's the harm in it? I'm still making great money, but I'm not
sure.
making, I'm not kidding. Like one of my awards I won one year, I was sitting there with a company that's $100 million company. And I told them I charged $10,000 to do this project and I made $8,000 in profit. Like I have nothing to complain about. That's a really good
No,
week. There's nothing
sure.
to complain about that. That's a really good week, let alone I had other projects going on for my team to do too. I have nothing to complain about. They're like, well, I would have charged $50,000 for that. I wouldn't have got the job.
Yeah.
It's one thing if it's
Well,
like I charged 10 and I should have charged 15, but I charged 10 and they would have charged 50. Well, then hire me to do a project for you where I can make 40 or 30, sure, no problem whatsoever.
what's
But
that,
that's
man?
not my clients. That's not what I'm finding.
Right.
And I'm
But
very happy with these designs. Like I have nothing to complain. I'd rather do that than do just another tile pattern every single day or
right.
just another stain and seal every
That.
day.
Yeah.
Like I have nothing I'm not complaining. I'm not looking back on my career and going, I didn't charge enough. Of course, I'm looking back on my career and saying I didn't make enough.
Right.
There's a difference
True.
there.
Sure. But that's the beauty of this niche kind of market is that if if and this is just a little advice from being in it is with these up and comers and people breaking into it and trying to sell especially vertical, and I'm just talking from my end. I'm
Sure,
not
sure.
talking for
Absolutely.
you.
Right. Absolutely.
It's a different thing. But the beauty of vertical is that you can meet price points for people, depending on you can dumb down the detail, you can use less color, you can not shape it I mean, shape it how they you can do it how they want it as far as shape and stuff, but you can lower the detail and lower the coloration and all that to meet a certain price. If people want top notch stuff, you can step it up and you can do high detail, a lot of colors, moss, lichens, and add to all that, and really put out a good project according to the price point. So that's a good way to sell. You get into somebody's house and you're sitting on a couch in their family room and you're trying to sell a $25,000 feature in your head, but that's not their budget. Well, you have the ability to adjust a lot of things to maybe meet that budget or get a lot closer to it, which is good. That I think a lot of people don't understand, that's possible, and you can kind of run through something. A project still looks good, maybe not what you wanted or what the price point called for, but you can still get the job and you can still make a profit and go about your business, because that's what you're inevitably there to do. You have to make a living. So in the vertical world, learn to adjust to a budget.
That's an
Don't
interesting
go
point.
all out
Yeah.
on something that somebody can't afford, that you want to do that for them just because, whatever, and waste labor time, like material time and all that. Adjust your projects to the budget, which vertical, you have that possibility.
That's a very good point. You do. I don't have that. That's a
Right.
really interesting point to say. And I never really thought about it that way. And as you say that, I think back on the details I saw on the different competitors, and I see exactly what you just said. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to not only their ability to the attention to detail, but also the time period they had to accomplish that goal. And they could only do so much detail to accomplish that goal in the time period given to them.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it that way. That's a really interesting way to say it, that you have that ability to do. There's not that big of a difference for me. It's not. It's really notoriety, or no one else can do it, so I should be able to name my price. It's not that I can dumb it down a little bit more because you don't want to charge as much.
Right.
That's all I can do is make a bigger tile pattern. It doesn't change anything for me.
It
Really at
doesn't
all.
work.
Yeah, that's
Right.
I
It
never
doesn't
thought
work.
about it that way through the 20 years I've been doing this, because that's not my wheelhouse. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's a really good point, because there's so many different ways to look at what a stone looks like, and you can dumb down a stone or detail a stone, and
Use
to your same
two
point.
colors
Yeah, I was just going to say,
instead of five, and
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yep. One of the things that I thought about after, like what I talked about, like after I took a photo of your image, it's the color that changed everything.
Yeah.
I didn't understand where you were going until you colored it.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Oh,
watch you color it.
cool.
I only watched you doing the texture and,
Okay.
and watched you putting together the river kind of thing, the waterfall kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I realized how much your color activated your texture
Yeah.
that I realized how far you really went.
Yeah.
I think that's an
And
interesting way to point that out too.
That is a key thing, which I think a lot of new guys coming into the vertical world don't understand. My goal throughout the whole carving process is to make it take color well. That's all I'm thinking about. And sure, the flow of the thing and the detail of the thing, obviously, but that all parlays into making the color work.
It goes back to my original question about a good idea done bad or a bad idea done good. You could ruin a great idea just by the color, or you can
Yes.
save a bad idea because of color.
That is the best quote like ever. Yeah. I mean, you can save some stuff with color. And from what I hear and what I gather from being at the expo for all these years and hearing these attendees come up and talk to me about, man, I can't figure out the color. What do I use? What do you use? What's, the best? And, it's like, and I don't know how many times during an expo I say that same quote, and, so coloring is the most, I feel like it's one of the most important things in the vertical world. Because it can look like a painted surface, like with a brush that's just layered on and thick and not, like blending of colors and multiple colors that kind of speckled into, all that. It doesn't look natural. You can tell it's just like a one single color and it's thick and stuff like that. But it could be a great carving. It had the best detail with some cracks going through it and all that. And you just schlep a big old nasty, heavy coat of color on it and you ruin all the detail. Right?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about it that way at all. And
Yeah.
it even makes it better. You know what you need to do in the future is tell them to all come talk to the colorblind artist, and he'll help you with color.
if he can do it, anybody can. No. You have no excuse, people.
Yeah, because I could not do what you're doing because there's no way I would be able to detail it color wise because I don't see it.
Yeah, and back at you. I can't. I'm not.
No, mine becomes paint by number. Once you draw and cut the design, it's paint by number. It's not complicated at all at that point. That's the easiest part.
Of course not.
The hardest physically, but the easiest to put together. Our color combinations on concrete is easy for me because it's very simple. It's the drawing and the cutting, but my favorite part is the engraving. Like I love the drawing and the cutting. Once I get to the staining, I want to just like curl up in a ball in the corner and go to sleep because it sucks.
Let somebody else do that.
God, it sucks so bad. It's grueling to lay on concrete and paint it. See, you're doing vertical where you're not laying on the concrete. It's a big difference when you're laying on it for hours and hours and hours and hand painting a mural on a floor. It's grueling to lay on
hard
concrete.
On the knees.
Oh, there's been times I did a project, I did a dental office in Nashville where I painted a dolphin by a bridge and all these other fish and everything and a turtle and all. It was all fun. It was a kid's play. It was awesome. Loved every minute of it. But I spent 60 hours over 5 days or 70 hours over 6 days. It's something ridiculous like that. It was 10-hour days. And I could barely walk afterward. My palm was all red. My elbow was all red. My hip was all red. It was, and I was sitting on top of knee boards off the concrete to even give me a little bit of padding.
Yeah.
Brutal work compared to being but at the same time in the same project, I did a mural on the wall and I did a mural on the ceiling. Those were cakewalk.
Yeah.
And the funny thing to that conversation, talking back to like pricing and everything like that.
Yeah.
I go into this project and they hired a company out of Canada that literally is like, I want to say it's like International Dental Services or something like that, or some kind of weird thing where all they do is design dental offices. That's all they do. And so they brought to me their plan that they bought, their sketch that they bought. And I was like, yeah, I can do that on the wall. No problem. And I did my floor based on what I saw on the wall and stuff like that. And the ceiling mural came up afterward. And so when I bid the wall mural and the floor, they came back to me and they're like, okay, well, what's your square footage cost of your floor? And I'm like, there is no square foot cost.
Right.
And they're like, what do you mean there's no square foot cost? And I was like, it's a fucking mural. There's no square foot cost.
What do you mean?
and it's not even that big. It's like 300 square feet or something stupid. It wasn't big. So it was name my price, Same thing with my wall. Same thing with the mural. It's name your price. What do you want to get out of the time you think it's going to take for you to do it? Period. Yeah. And they came back to me, but they were like, well, but I need the square foot cost of the floor. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And she said, well, because I've got the square foot cost of the tile over here and the stain and seal over there and all the other aspects of their building, they have a per square foot price of their floors.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't give a shit. I don't have a square foot price.
Right.
Is there a problem? And she said, no, I just want to know. She's not arguing. She's not saying no to my price. She just wants to know how much it costs per square foot. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I gave her the square foot and she came back and she said, you are $19.95 a square foot.
Okay.
Great. And I said, I'm just going to clarify to you, ma'am, that my wall mural I charged more to do that mural even than I did to do my floor. And it's a couple gallons of paint. Yeah. So my wall mural had more hours, less material cost, easier to do in vertical. My floor was more material cost and a lot of labor for me. It was all myself and everything. And I said, so I'm making ridiculous money off of this mural that you're not asking me about. You're not asking what the square foot price of this mural is. You only give a shit about the square foot price of this floor. I don't understand the difference and why you would ask that. But for the record, just so you know, I am making way more off of this wall than I would ever make on this floor. And it goes back to that same point of, if I would have charged $50, $60, $100 a square foot, she would have said no. I charged appropriately to get her to say yes because I wanted to do this project anyway. And I was making my money here. I was making my money there. Like, I had no problems. Like, I wasn't complaining. But she was like, thank you. And I'm like, what?
For what?
That's all she needed. I got the job. I did it. Won a award on it. It was all great. You know, whatever. Did not make any sense to me at all.
That's kind of the art of bidding as well. You know, you've got to not only pull it off, but you have to think about stuff like that. You know what I mean? You have to feel, and not to bring this up earlier or anything, but Dion Battles, who I think we all know, I sat in on a couple of his talks with homeowners or you know, commercial type jobs that we were going to do, and sat in on it and just watch him woo and talk to these customers about the project and stuff like that, and feel them out at the same time, you know, showing his excitement, which he was always is super excited about the stuff, and he made them excited about it.
Of course.
He was like, it was like contagious. I saw people's eyes light up with him talking about certain things, and he was just gathering information and seeing, you know, watching the innuendos and watching their reactions and watching everything to be able to then leave that meeting, put together a bid that they were good with. So that is super important in this whole process as well. Being able to, the art of bidding. I mean, you've got to know how to do that, or else you'll go out of business.
No, that's I completely agree with you. And I enjoyed that process because one of my biggest pet peeves was, and I've said this many times, is everybody is always like, well, you're the artist, what would you do? And I would go, you can't afford what I would do.
Right.
That is not the part of this conversation at all.
You don't want to know what I do.
You don't want to know what I'm thinking and what I would do.
Right.
You know, you can't afford me to paint the Mona Lisa on your floor right now. And I would redirect it to him and go, this is about you. You're the one that's living here. You're the one that's living on this. This is your house. Yeah. I could care less what happens. Once I'm out of here, I'm never going to see it again.
Yeah.
So I would cater to them, and I would look at their house, and I would look at them, and I would get to, like you said, I would get to know them. And I would come up with ideas based on what I'm hearing from them. And you said exactly the same thing. I would see those eyes light up of like,
yeah.
I've never thought about that before. Can you do that? Well, I wouldn't bring it up if I can't. Of course I can. And at that point, I know I've already sold the job. 100%, because nobody else in Nashville was coming in there bringing up dreams. Not a single competitor of mine would bring up a dream and show them how we can get there. And that's huge for a sales. It's huge.
It is.
It really is. Because they have to dream and they have to believe that dream can come true.
A lot of these people, it's, you know, this isn't cheap stuff to do, regardless if you dumb it down.
Not only is it not cheap, but we are a luxury.
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
Everything we do is a luxury.
Needed.
And it's not needed at all.
Not needed at all.
At all.
Not at all.
This is not for the people that make $10,000 a year or live in poverty. These, you know, I know an exact amount of what your house is worth, or else you don't have time for me. I know exactly. Right. I know when I go to a sales call, I'm not getting this job because this house is only worth $400,000. I know I will not. I'm wasting my time even talking to them because there's no way they can afford it. But if that house is worth, like my market was 7.5 to 1.5.
Yeah.
Or 750, to 1.5. That was my market, and I knew that was my bread and butter to do the basics. do the foundation of everything I was doing, to do really cool designs. You want to go past 1.5, those are the dreamers. Those are the ones that have all the money in the world, and either they're going to hire you to do really freaking awesome, amazing stuff, or they're going to do stone. They're not going to do concrete at all, you know, and things like that. And knowing all of that matters.
And I've learned through the process, and you know, I was kind of a wingman. I didn't do a ton of stuff on my own. I was always, you know, from the beginning of Kirt Bag, and really, Kirt Bag was only out.
Hold on
maybe
a second.
A year.
I'm going to pause you for 1 second because I want to get into this. I got to go to the bathroom.
All right, I'm gonna get some more. I'm gonna fill up my drink.
Okay, so we will be right back, and we will catch. No one will know. There's going to be a, like when you go to the movie, like when they're making a movie, and they have the. All right, and we're back. And action. Okay.
Right.
Apologize for that moment, but you know it's rare when I have to go to the bathroom during a show. So you brought up Kirt Bag, and we've talked about this in behind the scenes a few times, but I've never really asked you a few questions I'm about to ask you. So first and foremost, I want to know how Kirt Bag started.
Oh, you know, I think there's some stuff that's been written that's out there about it.
I didn't read it, so tell me.
Pretty much true.
Wait, before we start, do we need to do another shot first?
Oh, not yet. Hold on.
Now that we're back, shot number.
I got this one. I accidentally filled that.
Oof.
This is a pretty good size shot.
That is. So this is shot number 4. We started before we started recording, so this is shot number 4 for us. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
In case anybody doesn't realize how much we do this behind the scenes during the show, we are proving it. Oof. All right.
Where's Dave Ribella right now? Is he
really?
Too bad he's not watching.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah.
Sorry, Dave. We're filming.
It takes a minute for the newbies to work into this. You don't just come right into this stuff.
Yeah, you got to earn your spot.
You got to earn your keep.
Just because you won a belt doesn't mean you earned the spot yet.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Hey, we won in 2016, so you don't hear me bragging about it all the
time. I've never won Decocrete. I've only won World of Concrete.
Yeah, we won. It wasn't actually Decocrete. Remember, it was.
It was. Oh, that's right. Well, but it was. It was Brawl in the Fall, sponsored by Decocrete at that point. That was still all Decocrete.
I don't know if anybody remembers this. If anybody, is or whoever is out there watching, we did a competition in 2016 for the Concrete Decor Show that Decocrete, I guess, essentially was in charge
in San Diego.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it was in October in San Diego, and we did a Halloween themed deal, which was unbelievable.
It was. And in fact, the interesting story to this is I had done the Brawl in the Fall the year before in Charlotte. And,
yeah, that's what it was called, Brawl in the Fall.
And back then they had said, if you don't win, you don't come back to next year. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I went and did a training class at the show in San Diego and was like, okay, I'm not going to be a part of the Brawl, and it is what it is. And then, I think it was the day I got there or even the day before I got there, Hirschberger called me and was like, hey, we had a guy back out. Can you take a spot in the Brawl? And I'm like, what? And I was like, why me? And they were like, because we all know that you're going to do something clever and you can accomplish it in the time period allowed. The whole point is, if you give me 8 hours, 16 hours, whatever you want to give me, I can accomplish this goal in that time period. And I was like, cool. Right. So literally the first night in San Diego, I'm out to dinner with Decocrete, and Jeff and I are sitting in the corner of the table. It was at BJ's, I believe, as the place was called. And I'm sitting at the table with all the Decocrete employees and all the people that are part of the Brawl. And I'm sketching in the corner with Jeff going, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And
What
boom,
about
I'm
that?
out there doing something. No, I didn't win. I mean, it was like last second. I didn't have time to think about it. And I was still teaching class and all of that too. So anyway,
Yeah. And it was so hot. Oh
so
my
hot.
gosh. It was the hottest week of the like century in San
And
Diego or
that's also
something.
when Keith Duhan did that crazy demonstration to recognize human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
That
Yeah,
was
it was
amazing
unbelievable. It
with all the
was
spray paint and all the
unbelievable.
graffiti. And that was a
Yeah,
really
he
cool
hired
concept to get people
super
aware
cool.
of. If no one
Yeah.
knows what we're talking about, that is something to look back on and research. If I can find a link, I'll add it to the show. But it
Think
was
of the
amazing.
foresight
Yes.
that he had. That was in 2016. That's 9 years ago that he was trying to bring that to people's attention. So
Yeah.
kudos to Keith, and it was awesome, and we got along really well. I like Keith. Um, he's done some really great stuff, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was neat. Once I was able to wrap my head around the concept, and I went in and watched the stuff, and I kind of came out blown away. It was if you were there and you went into it, you came out differently than you went in for sure.
Absolutely. The awareness was epic. And
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
believe you actually won. It's just because, again, it goes back to the same problem I had this year. People didn't wrap their head around the magnification, the detail, the storyline, the reasoning behind it, the big picture to that display.
yeah, yeah.
If they
I think we
did,
won by one vote or something. They said, I don't know.
really,
No, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it
that's
was.
awesome.
We
I
barely made
didn't.
it.
I wasn't close. I wasn't in the top three, top five. I was probably last in place, just like
Wow.
I was this last year.
Yeah, me and you both.
The old timers were the last on the list.
That's right.
All right, so tell me about how Kurt Bag got started.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about that. Um, so it came about. I've been in the. I was a flat work guy for over 25 years.
That's a
That's
really
that
good.
was
I'm glad you said that. I actually don't know anything about your history and how
okay.
you got to where you're at. So
All right.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
brought that. The way I said that, I didn't realize. Like, yeah,
Yeah. I
explain
mean, I'm an old concrete guy. That's me.
broom
I work
finish,
for.
stamp, all the above.
Yeah. Well, so when I was in it, I got in to concrete in 1989, 90, I think. I graduated in 88 with, no, no plan, no nothing. And uh, a couple of my good friends that are still my friends today. I don't have a lot of friends, but these guys are my
Yes, you do. You're
these are,
staring at one.
you know what I mean.
I know.
You know what I mean. Uh, they went and into construction and got some pretty decent job. They got in a laborers union. So, long story short, uh, at that time, I'm like, I'm just going to do this. They're making good money. I'd have probably flunked out of college. I would have partied too much, and I would have wasted money. And I knew that, and but I had this urge just to work. So anyway, I went into flat work, and I started out doing streets, subdivision streets, following a paving machine and stuff, and broke into the union, and then uh, branched out after that. I kind of had a knack for it, just naturally had a knack for concrete for some reason, and I knew some people, and they got me a job doing more like commercial stuff, site work, sidewalks, floors, footings, curb and gutter, blah blah blah, and then kind of stuck with that because I liked it. I liked that gratification of the time it took to set forms and make sure they're straight, go by the elevations, read the hubs, all that stuff, and then put out something and strip it and move on and be like, yeah, that's, that looks good, So I enjoyed that medium. I enjoyed concrete as my medium. And like I said, I ended up doing that, unfortunately, for 20, 25 plus years. And toward the end, like I said, I had a kind of a knack for it, and we did a lot of stuff that required patching, like walls and different things. And my boss at the time, put me on it because I was good at it. And but I didn't like a lot of the just add water bag mixes and stuff. So there was always something wrong with them. I was like, if it was like this and this, then this would be perfect. So then I started, when I would do those particular jobs, I'd just formulate my own mix. I'd be like, I'll go buy a bunch of silica sand and get this and this, and I think this will really be better. So I kind of had that experience while doing that, and learning mixes and actually learning. I was researching how concrete worked, what made it hard, what did this, what did that at that time, and then through the years, those many flat work guys probably they just get tired of doing flat work and stuff. So I stumbled upon concrete countertops, which I thought was super cool, but it wasn't really enough for me at the time. It was still fresh and new and pretty vague and pretty easy. There wasn't all this GFRC stuff and all that. It was, you go into somebody's house and you take over their kitchen for a week, pouring in place, and so evasive and stuff. And I didn't really like that. And then just doing some research and stuff, got into saw vertical concrete and kind of fell in love with that. I was like, oh my God, how can you do this? This is incredible. So I wanted to learn it. And there were mixes out there at the time, and it was like $50 for a 50-pound bag of this mix that would do 5 square feet. And that was my practice. That's all I knew that was out there. And it was expensive. And I'm like, I can't practice like this. I can't afford to spend $50 a bag every time I want to practice, blah, blah, blah. So then I started kind of going back into the patching mode and did a ton of research. And I really dove into it to create a mix for myself that I could practice with. Well, after about a year of doing that and kind of perfecting the mix I wanted just for myself, to practice with, that was materials were easily available and all that. I had I had met Dion, and it's funny, we were started talking on the phone about just the industry in general, and really
What was
kind of got
Dion doing at that time or before that?
same thing. Just beginning, doing a little bit of carving. He just got out of doing municipalities. Uh, you know, he worked for I think the local municipality.
Did he live in the
But
same area as you or different
no,
areas?
he lived in Boise, Idaho, and at that time I was in St. Louis.
Who the hell
Uh,
wants to live in Boise, Idaho? Sorry, side
oh
conversation.
no, it's the greatest place. It is the hidden gem. If you
I've been
would
there.
go there, you would want to stay.
I,
Yeah, you didn't like it?
I, the sun was bright so damn long. No,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
high up. It's
Well,
a high elevation. There's
it's
a
dry
lot of
desert.
sunlight.
It's a dry desert.
It
Yeah.
is. It's a
Yeah.
high elevation with a beautiful landscape of mountains in the background
Oh yeah.
and a ton of sunlight, just like Colorado, just like Denver.
You know.
Brutal. Anyway, sorry, not to
Yeah.
distract you.
Uh, um. So yeah, my whole garage is full of practice boards. I'd alter the mix, try this to see what I didn't like, what I did like, blah blah blah, and So I finally kind of perfected it, and I'm like, this is great. So I was able to practice, and the whole time I'm making the mix, I'm actually practicing. So that was a good thing. Each time I did a practice board, I'm like, I don't like that and that and that. This practice board, when I do this mix, I'm going to try this, and so I kind of not perfected, but I really learned. Had an accelerating learning curve of carving because of that, and I came to a point where I was just loving it. And
And,
funny
and
thing
and
was,
not to interrupt you, but at this time when you were doing this,
mhm,
was there much of a vertical mix anyway?
there were several of them out there. Yeah, and so the funny thing is, see this, we could talk for hours. The
We do.
everything,
We're just
every
finally recording it. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, this is normal. um, oh, everything at that time was really emphasized on being lightweight. And because, that was, I guess, a key selling factor at the time. Because if you compare that to real stone and stuff like that, it was a selling point. Because I think they were comparing it to like lick and stick or natural stone, where you'd have to have a
Oh, the
footing
good old
to,
Centurion. Yeah,
yeah, to
yeah, yeah,
hold
yeah,
all this
yeah, yeah,
weight and all this
yeah,
stuff. So it was all lightweight.
yeah.
Well, I didn't use lightweight stuff because in being in concrete and knowing about freeze thaw and all that stuff, what made it lightweight was they were substituting a lot of the sand in the mix for like vermiculite or perlite and
Gypsum.
stuff like
Yeah,
that. Well, vermiculite and perlite are made to absorb moisture and hold it for plant life and stuff like that, to in beddings and plant beddings and stuff. So, being in an exterior application, you don't want something to absorb moisture and hold it in a freeze thaw area, because it just expands and busts up like crazy. So I went on this rampage of, you don't need lightweight. There wasn't that much of a weight difference compared with what they were comparing. It was a sales gimmick, and it was a
right,
sales thing.
right. To
So
compare to somebody else, to compare to their competition.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, you can use mine indoors, you can use it outdoors, and it doesn't matter. Where a lot of the lightweight stuff, you couldn't. Some of it you could use. They say you could. You just throw a little polymer in it or whatever, but that wasn't the fact. Um, it was another way to sell more stuff. And I'm kind of the working man guy. I wanted to give the best, what I thought was the best vertical for the money at the time. Well, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but at the time, I loved it so much. And at that time, then when I was talking to Dion and stuff, Dion mentioned to me that he's going to, and I'm not going to say a name, but he's one of the best vertical guys in his time. That was there. He was going to a training of his. He was going to learn,
Oh, I bet I know who it
go
is,
out
but it's okay. We'll talk about that
there. Okay.
afterward. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And I don't like him, the guy.
yeah.
But anyway,
I know who it is. Yeah, go ahead.
it's a whole nother story.
Yep.
So I inevitably was able to get a hold of him. Told him I'd come out there. I would furnish the mix, and this is an old school, hard nosed, hardcore guy that didn't believe in anything but what he used and what he thought was right. Again, I'm trying not to drag this out too much,
You're
but
fine, man.
we went to
We got nothing else to do on a Friday night.
so went out there, and I sponsored it. So at this point, Dion was not part of Kirt Back, um, but he helped me get into this with this guy. So I brought my truck loaded down, my bed full of mix to be able to pull off this project that we were going to do at this training and everything, and used it. And the all I heard the whole time is just complaining, bag mixes, and at the end of it, that particular person came up to me and said, "This is probably the nicest stuff I ever used. The easiest stuff to work with. You can get your shape right away. It doesn't migrate. It doesn't sag. Blah 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 blah." He said, "If you don't sell this stuff, I will."
Okay,
Or
so I have a question for
something
you at
that.
this point in the conversation.
Okay.
From what little I know about Kirt bag, at this point, was it the additive or was it a full bag
No,
mix?
it's always the additive.
It was always
Yeah.
the additive. Okay,
Ad
okay,
pack.
okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah.
That's
And
that's
I
that's
and I
a
have to
big deal to me.
I have to give that to a competitor that was out there. That was a genius idea. And I did steal that. All good ideas are it's hard to come up with an original idea nowadays, right? Sometimes have to
Yeah,
take some things and use it to your
of
advantage.
course.
So I did do that, but it was in no way the same formula or even close to it. But so after that, after he told me that, I kind of went on a campaign I thought I was onto something, and started advertising on different mediums like Nathan Giffen's Vertical Artisans and stuff like that, throwing stuff out there. Facebook, hey, blah blah blah, and slowly but surely, and then also I supplied the mix for several of Nathan Giffen's trainings. We went out there
Really
and represented,
interesting.
and
I did not know that.
yeah, and
Nathan's a good friend of mine. I never knew that.
yeah, yeah. There was a job in Oregon. It was the Hobbit Home, is what they called it, and it
I
was an
didn't know. I remember
underground
that. Yeah,
house.
yeah. I remember that
And that
project. Yeah,
we sponsored all that carving that went
Walt
on in there.
Tools and all that kind of
That's
stuff was a
all
major
Kurt bag.
sponsor.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. Mike Vernelson was out there
Yeah.
carving one day. Mike loved it. That was the icing on the cake for me when Mike gave me the kind of the
So
nod
I've
about it.
known you almost since this all started. Like known you, not gotten to know you, not knew you
Okay.
as a person to talk to, but before we were talking, I was watching this happen in real time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy,
Because I
huh?
was talking to Nathan through that whole project. I knew him really well at that point, and we were talking all the
Yeah,
time. And I
yeah.
remember that, and I was talking to him through that project.
Well, I think there were several phases or several trainings that he put on
Sure,
in that
sure.
particular area, and I think maybe the first one, um, the Kurt Bag was not the sponsored mix there, but the second one, and we did a lot of stuff in that place. Pretty much the majority of what was left with Kurt Bag, and even Nathan, who had a mix out at that time, was pretty impressed with it. As much as he didn't want to say anything.
Of course.
So that was those were the kind of the I guess I was looking for validation for people that were in it before me, um, and I got the validation from the one that Dion turned me on to. Then I got validation from Nathan, and at that time, that was it. That's all I really felt I needed
I agree
to be.
because at that moment Nathan was the center of the universe for vertical concrete.
Yes,
100%.
if it wasn't for Nathan, it would not be out here as much as it is.
That's a
I mean,
very
you
good
have
point.
to give that credit to him.
100%. I agree with you, and I would love to get
Absolutely.
him on the show for that reason because I've been friends with him ever
Yeah.
since then.
Oh, he'll talk to you. You'll be
Yeah.
3 hours.
Oh, I know. And I'll never get to talk at all. Love him.
Yeah,
He's a great
you
guy.
won't get a word.
He's a great guy
Yeah,
and very passionate about the
absolutely.
industry. Also, back to the same point that
Absolutely.
we are.
Yeah.
Not just a egotistical maniac for himself. He was all about the industry across the
Yes.
board
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
building the industry.
He turned Dion and I both onto it, and tons of other people. So again, he brought it to the spotlight, I think, and um, credit him 100% for that.
Yeah.
So after those validations, I advertised, put it out, did more trainings, tried to just hustled and tried to get it out there, and then Decocrete got turned on to it, and
Yeah, because they had nothing vertical before that.
Well, they were using a competitor
They were
that they
starting
just
to? Okay.
they were using them, and then they transitioned into Kurt Bag after that, and so and they were my best, they were my best vendor and everything at the time, and and that was kind of how that relationship actually started. To talk about that before these expos, that's what got me recognized by them, to because they sold it. Then once they started carrying it, then they wanted me to come and rep it and say, hey, look,
Of course.
this is so. That's how we got introduced. Um, so that's kind of how it all
Okay.
started.
So how do I ask this next question? Okay. It's interesting that Decocrete found out about you through social media, basically, then, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah,
It's such a weird. I'm still trying to wrap my
yeah.
head around when they became involved with connecting with you and asking you to come do the demonstrations. And then that's when I really met you. We go back to the original conversations when we first met. It was at Decocrete show.
Yeah.
I don't know if we
Early.
I don't know if we talked the first year we were talking about that. I don't remember if we even talked once the first year because you are such a extrovert and always talking to people all the time and getting into all the parties and talking. I'm being sarcastic in everything I'm saying right now. You are
Yeah.
far from that across the board. And it took a
Yeah.
long time to get to know you. And and I say that in a positive way because, we all have our own quirks. But it was grueling to try to understand, hey, we're doing this year after year. Why are we not connecting?
Yeah. I don't.
But I know why. Because you're an
Yeah.
introvert and Dion is not. And I was talking to
Yeah.
Dion right in front
Yeah.
of you. Like I
Yeah.
remember sitting at the Best Western at the bar in the hotel, and the three of us are sitting there, and I'm talking to Dion, and you're just sitting there, and you're
Yeah.
chiming in a tiny bit, but you weren't talkative at all, and
Yeah.
Dion was. And the problem I had at the time was I had nothing in common with you guys. Zero,
Yeah. Yeah.
zero in common.
For sure.
Not 1%, not 10%, not 50%,
Yeah.
zero. And I struggled with that across the board with the two of you because I was like, well, but we're both professionals here for the same reason. Why are we not talking behind the scenes? And that's kind of my
Yeah.
mentality, my attitude, because I am not an introvert in any way, shape, or form. And I want to know everybody and I want to know how they click and I want to figure it out. And
Yeah.
I couldn't figure the two of you out. I couldn't figure out the relationship. I didn't understand what it was that you guys were trying to do. And what I don't know how much you remember and stuff like that of those times either, but
I
shortly after
remember.
that,
Yeah.
I wanted to do a giant pink bunny for World of Concrete.
Mhm.
And I reached out to you and was like, "Hey man, I'm trying to do this and I'm looking at a couple of different companies. What do you think?" And you were like, "Yeah, sure, you can buy our product." You wouldn't give it to me. I had to buy it. And I bought a couple bags of it and I was like, let me see if I can do it, whatever. And I didn't use your product because the other one was given to me. It was coincidental. It wasn't because I had an issue either way. It was because I didn't
Right.
know what the fuck I was doing because I don't do vertical. And I
Right.
wanted to make it easy for myself. And so I went with not admixture. I went with the one that was already pre-mixed and I didn't have to think because I didn't know any better.
Yep.
And
Just add water.
I don't regret that to this day because I used Bart Sacco's mix and he's one of my best friends of all time. And I love that man to death. And I would always work with him no matter what. And that
Oh
was the
yeah.
problem is you were battling with my best friend at the time. And how could I not say yes to that? But I was trying to get to know you guys, and I was trying to work with you guys because I knew that we were going to see each other more. I
Yeah.
knew you weren't going away, and we were that. It's an inner circle when it comes to Decocrete. When you're on
Yeah.
the inside of their organization, and once
Yeah.
you're in, it's almost like a tenure. It's hard to get back out. You got
It
to really
is.
fuck up to
Yeah.
lose that
Yeah.
opportunity, which I almost did once. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. We talked about that. Yeah.
And so it was hard for me to figure the two of you out across the board. It really was.
Yeah.
And then out of, and we joked about this last year, was it because I showed you a reality check that you were always in the middle of everything that was going on. Because your perspective was, I'm an introvert. I'm not involved with anything. I come here and I do my job and I disappear.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you don't. You're in the middle of everything all the time. And you're like, no, I'm not. It's like, yes, you are. I can prove it to you right now. No, you can't. And so I pulled out a photo and I was like, you're wearing the same hoodie you were wearing. And
That was the funniest. And I think that was the moment that, and I think you agree, that was the moment that changed everything.
it did.
As far as
It finally
our-
sunk in that
Yeah.
I'm a friend. I'm
Yeah.
trustworthy. I'm not going
Yeah.
anywhere. You can believe in our conversation. I'm not going to go tell everybody what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you can trust me. It's okay.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't, that's a tough thing for you to do, is it not?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and Dion was not that problem. He didn't, how do I say this? I'm not going to say he didn't respect me, but he didn't know how to handle me. You didn't know how to
Right.
handle anybody. He didn't know how to handle me. And
Yeah.
there was a sarcasm to our conversations, which is completely fine with me because I can roll with anybody when it comes to sarcasm.
Sure.
And so I appreciated it, but I felt like you guys were missing my point, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It does. But on the other side of the coin, we always felt like we were the black sheep of
So did
the
I.
industry. You know what I mean?
That's why I
Like-
thought we would get along. That was my frustration right there. That's a very
Like-
good way to say it, and I felt like the same way.
Yeah, like we were minimally shown, not talked about, which wasn't important, but just noticed. You know, so we always felt like we were the underdogs, or we were like, and we did some cool stuff.
Yes, you
man.
did.
And
Ridiculously
I
cool.
mean, and it was all Dion's. That was his thing. It was his vision, and he had the greatest vision and the greatest ideas, and I was just there. I was just the schlep, knowing him good enough to be able to pull it out of that brain and putting it on canvas, for lack of better terms. You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Sure.
So I always felt that he's the star. You know, he was the guy, because it was the vision, that it was his idea, the hidden door, the tree, and then the burning from the inside out,
Which was
part
another
of-
year. You added that later. Yes.
Yeah, we added that after 1 year. All that is credited to Dion, and I was just there to try and pull out. He trusted me, which was incredible, because he didn't. You know, it was such a weird dynamic. I guess maybe from the outside looking in, from us, it was natural.
I'm still confused about your dynamic still to this day. Yes.
Yeah,
I couldn't
yeah.
I couldn't figure you two out. And I'm pretty good at figuring people out, and I just could not wrap my head around the two of
It
you.
worked. It just worked. You know.
Okay, so with that said, All right.
Wait,
Go ahead.
can we? I gotta pee.
We just peed.
I did.
Why did
I
you
pulled
not when we took a break?
because I didn't have to.
Oh my God.
All right, let's go
And
ahead.
break.
Can you stay there? Can you? Are you on
I'm not
topic?
going anywhere. I'm good.
All right.
You're
Let me
good.
run
Hurry
and
up.
do this. I'm getting uncomfortable. Okay.
Run. I could just keep talking about Jeff and no one would know any different. And I could just enjoy talking shit about him while I'm sitting here. No one would care because, it's awesome to talk about my friends. So I have to decide if I'm going to delete this or just keep rambling on about the beauty of knowing Jeff Kirt and Dion Battles and the beauty of knowing the people that have been involved with all of the training classes and the demonstrations through all the years of Decocrete. Because one of the things that people need to understand is there was a time when, I remember when Decocrete started, and at the time, Concrete Decor was doing their magazine and doing their shows. And then along comes Decocrete with hey, why don't we work with you and do this Brawl in the Fall? And they started to create a really big name for themselves in the industry by doing this competition as they were through the Concrete Decor shows. And then it leads into, you know what? We don't need Concrete Decor anymore. Let's do our own show in our hometown, in our home area in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, that no one believes exists. And let's see if anybody's going to show up. And we did. And being that I was friends with them this entire time, it was no big deal for me to say yes to go to my hometown area to show off what I do and help these guys out. And then it just builds and builds and builds. And that's one of the great things about this conversation with Jeff, because no one realizes the background of all of these artists that are there and how we got into this moment and how we got involved with Concrete or Decocrete, and also how Decocrete treats us too, because if they like you, they love you. There's no gray area with Decocrete. It's either a love or we don't want anything to do with you. Good luck. Not negative, not screw you, not you're dead to us. It is either you're with us or it's okay. You can still hang out. And I kind of feel like I have a very rare connection to Decocrete than anybody else because I'm hometown. I've known them from day one. I was right next to them at World of Concrete when they did their martini glass. So there's this underlying story of relationship that I have with this company that I would do anything for, and I do believe they would do anything for me. I've never had a hint of them ever giving up on me. It's frustrating to not do the show next year or do a demo next year because of it. I've been talking the whole time while you've been gone. I just figured that I would keep talking in case I added or not, and we're back.
I'm like wondering what's going Like Rick has lost his mind.
No, I was just talking about my relationship with Decocrete and how there's no gray area with them. It's either you're in it with them or you're not. And when I say you're not, it's not like they hate you or they'll never work with you. It's either you're on the insides of the organization and you can do whatever you want with them, or they're like, it's great to know you. Thanks for coming. It's not that they don't want you there. There's no negative. They're not assholes. They're not dicks to you. They're not rude. If you screw up, it's not that they're going to ever hate you. It is either we love you because you're consistent and we want to help you and we want to show off it's a win-win for both of us, or not. And that's it. There's nothing else. And there's no gray area in between. They'll give you a chance, but there's no gray area. They're very black and white in a positive, not in a negative. I've never had a single negative with Decocrete. They've been so good to me over the years.
Yeah, and me too. And I have nothing I don't come to these shows to promote anything. I don't have anything to promote.
Well, yeah, you
I
do.
I do help them with promoting Kurtbag,
That's
and
that's the
you
point.
know,
Yeah, yeah, you do.
yeah, but I don't have to do that. I there's no obligation there,
No, there's no
but
obligation either way. We want to. And this
want
is
to,
where I go
right?
back to it, and I want to get back to our conversation. But this is one of those things
Yeah,
that we talk about all the time, where you are always like, I don't care if I won. I don't care if anybody knows me. I don't care if I ever exist. And I disagree because you wouldn't have done everything you just said if you believed that.
I yeah, I do. I do because I don't.
You came up with a
I
great product and you want to be remembered because of it. You can't deny that.
no, I don't. No, I don't. Not at all. Not at all. I'm happy for myself in my own mind, in my own body, and in my own world that I was able to do that. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. Um,
No, it's not.
and I was nothing compared to the people I was competing against, and who I was competing against huge corporations and and others not so huge, but in a niche market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy. That's like trying to compete against Coca Cola or I don't know, whatever Crest toothpaste. You're bringing in I got a new toothpaste, and you're going to compete against Colgate, Crest, and all these other whatever,
Kurt
people out
Paste.
there. So
Coming soon, Kurt Paste.
Kurt paste, yeah. So, it's a bit intimidating, and it's a bit, you don't know your.
Well, here's another
It's
interesting
just
point to what
intimidating.
here's another interesting point to what you're saying. There's so I'm going to bite myself in the ass for saying this. There's so much private labeling going on out there. It's
Yeah,
refreshing to meet someone who actually did make the product. It's not a private label. You didn't come
yeah.
across a company and said, "Hey, if you do this, this, and this, you can make this for me, and I'll sell it." Right?
No,
It was you.
I didn't. I didn't trust. I know. I I wanted it to be mine. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Now back
yeah.
to our conversation. So,
Okay. What were we
so
talking about?
I'm getting there. So I remember the moment sitting there with the two of you and going, "Okay, you guys have finally seen me enough years that you're finally talking to me." And not in a negative way. I mean, I had this same conversation with Ben Bass where I was like, "You have your own little clique, your own little world, and you're ignoring me because I'm not part of your little world." And
That was not us.
well, it was because you did it flat out to me for years.
Eh,
You didn't do it in perfect. Remember,
not
no,
intentionally.
that's my point. Neither did Ben. That was the
Right.
whole point of the conversation. I caught him completely off guard because I was like, "You have no idea how hard it was to get into your clique." It's the same kind of conversation because we saw each other so many times sitting in that fucking bar at Best Western,
Ugh.
which shout out to Best Western in Worcester, one of the best
Shout out.
hotels to ever stay
That was
at.
the
The
best.
best. They catered to us. One of my
Uh,
favorite stories about the Best Western, not to sidetrack this a little bit longer, but my favorite
Sitting at
stories of sitting there.
the long table
Oh,
and playing
before, I
games.
think it was before they put the bar in. Maybe the bar was still there, but they had the tables over there. And I
Yeah.
brought Cards Against Humanity, and there was a group of us playing in the middle, in the front office or the front lobby, playing Cards Against Humanity, laughing our asses off loud. We were
Yeah.
obnoxious, right?
It's
And
horrible.
people were coming in to check in, and they're just like, "What the hell is going on?" Right? And so eventually the
And this is
managers,
midnight. This is
Yes.
midnight,
This
1 o'clock,
is
two
midnight.
o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the manager's like, "Hey, can you keep it down over there?" And I pipe up right away going, no. And he goes,
Yeah.
"Excuse me?" And I said, "I'm sorry, but let me just clarify something here. Are you telling me that if people are walking in here to check in and there is extreme amount of laughter going on in the lobby, that that's a negative, that it looks bad on you because people are having a good time in your hotel lobby? Like
Right.
that's bad for
Yeah.
you. We're not allowed to have any fun in your lobby." And he was like, "Who are you and what room are you staying in?" And I'm like, "I am not going to fucking tell you that. I'm not an idiot."
Yeah.
And it just shut it up from there and they ignored us. But yeah, that place was the best. I had no idea there was a sports bar in that place for how many years until
No.
the second to last year we were there. And they were,
Yeah.
because of
Opened
COVID,
it up.
none of the
Yeah.
bars were open anymore. And we're like, we want to party, we will spend money. And not only
Yeah.
did they open that sports bar we never knew existed up for us to party
Yeah.
in, they supplied pizza for us on their dime. And
Yeah.
they trusted us to keep track of every drink we bought through them
Yeah.
and sold and paid them for everything. There was
Yeah.
no question. They trusted us on everything because they felt so bad that Wooster was shutting down at 10:30 because after COVID because nobody cared
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
And look at it now. We're not there anymore. And part of that is the reason. You know, we're now in
Yeah.
Canton where the bars don't close till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and we can do whatever we want to. It's so stupid. Wooster
Yeah.
failed. Not Best Western. Wooster, the town, failed
Yeah.
Deco Creek.
What's the name of that bar we'd walk to all the time? Right down the thing.
Flamingo Jacks.
No, that was the
Oh,
other one way
Muddies.
down.
The other way was
What?
Muddies.
Muddies. Yeah.
Muddies.
Yeah.
Both of
Muddies.
them shut
Yeah.
down at 10:30, 10:30 after COVID.
Yeah.
Never.
We were just getting going.
I remember going to Muddies and bitching at the bartender and going, "What is wrong with you? We have all these
Yeah.
concrete guys in here ready to get hammered, and you want to close right now." I was like, "Let me
Yeah.
talk to your manager," and she's like, "I am the manager." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Like,
You need to change your policy.
so frustrating.
Right.
All right, back to our conversation. So, what I don't understand is still, and I asked this a minute ago, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. How in the hell do you and Dion become such great friends when you don't even live in the same state? How?
Uh, I don't know. Um, I don't know. So in my life, and still to this day, really, um, when I go back home, I go visit three people um, who are dear to me, and I'm dear to them. Um, and those three people I have known for 35 plus years. Those are my um, those are my friends. People have. I'm not the person that has a bunch of acquaintances that you talk to and make plans and don't end up not doing anything, and it just becomes this thing. And I'm like, if I'm gonna have friends, I want to have friends uh, that I've known for years, that I grew up with, that I had experiences with, and all that stuff. So I've always kind of been that guy. I don't have a bunch of acquaintances. I have on one hand that I can count that are you know and this is a different thing, that are from my hometown, that I grew up with and went to school with and ran with, and all that stuff. There was a ton of experience in those years.
Do these guys
And
know what you've done? Do they know that you were a, what was it,
oh,
2000,
just yeah,
2000
just
whatever winner of the Brawl in the Fall in San Diego?
so actually, when I was kind of formulating Kurtbag, one of my best friends, still again to this day, was actually the first person part of it, but before Dion, and he and I were the ones that uh, kind of tested it and stuff like that, and and then I moved to Texas, and um, that's when we were on Vertical Artisans with Nathan and stuff, and that's how I ended up inevitably meeting Dion. And I called him out of the blue one night. It was dark. I'm walking around my driveway, uh, thinking, should I call him? Should I not? Whatever, and called him. And from that moment on, I don't know. There was just something there, and I wish he was still here to be able to corroborate what I'm saying. But he had his whole crew back in Boise that he grew up with and stuff like that. But um, we just clicked, and um, I, I don't know. We talked 3 times a week for 10 years.
Really?
Like clockwork. Um, so it wasn't like and I wished we were closer all the time to be able to, instead of just talking on the phone, and be able to like drive over to his house and hang out and sit there and talk
Yes,
that
because
way
you had that
instead of
kind of
on the phone.
relationship, without a question.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
But for 10, it's like a long distance relationship, with a woman or something. It's like at some point you just want to move in together, or you
Okay.
want to
Who was
you
the
want to
guy and
be
who was the woman in
closer.
this relationship then?
I don't know. We'll have to look. Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know who was that. Yeah, I don't know. Probably me. Who knows? Uh, but it was just that relationship. But believe it or not, he was busy enough to um, be able to have the opportunity for us to hang out and fly me up there or whatever for jobs and stuff like that. So we were together in person because of that a lot more than maybe anybody that cares or anybody that might know. So I probably was with him 3 times a year, for a month or so at a time
Really? So
during
you would
that
go up
period.
there and do major projects with them, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We had
That
a
makes more
lot of
sense.
big projects.
That helps me understand that, because I was like, I still don't understand how you were talking on the phone 3 days a week and you became that close. Because you guys were
Yeah,
close. You
we
can't
were. We
explain your relationship without witnessing it. And anybody that's listening that knows the history of Kurt Bag and going to the Decker Creek shows sees this relationship. I have a fortunate different conversation about it because we were there all the time. We were the first ones to the party and last ones to leave sometimes, or hanging
oh
out.
yeah,
I mean, that bar and the hotel in Best Western, can't tell you how many times we sat there together. And
there were some long nights,
long nights, and
but I mean,
sometimes you would go away and Dion and I would talk and stuff like that too. It just was all
yeah,
relative to the mood you guys were in and stuff like that. But yeah, and so I never could wrap my head around, and I knew back then that you guys were not in the same town. I just could not wrap my head around the relationship. I couldn't figure it out.
yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it was hard because we both wanted to be in each other's presence, you know, uh, and all the time we were like, man, why can't you just be here? It'd be so much easier, because I knew concrete, and he did some concrete at the time, and he did a lot of remodels and stuff like that as well. But he did the verticals also. That was his passion, that was his love, and so it's just like, God, why can't one of the other be in the area or closer and stuff. We're on one to south and north,
Right,
as almost
completely
far as you.
different. Snow half the year, no snow at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
total reality changes.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why you would move to Boise. It would be move to the south where we can work 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
not move
Right.
to the north where we can work 6 months a year. Like there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah. But he was, he fortunately was able to enjoy the everything about Boise, which was in the summer it was the river and the trails and the mountain biking and the motorcycle riding and all that, and then in the winter it was the snowmobiles, and which he had all of that stuff and kick ass, always all kitted out and wrapped and all the cool shit, and so he was able to. I don't blame him a bit for not wanting to leave that place because there's so much to do all round year round, and he took advantage of all of it.
Depends on how you look at it, to be honest with you, because I grew up in Ohio where I had the same weather.
Yeah.
And yes, I love playing board games. I love playing cards. You already know that because I'm always bringing all sorts of games with me when I travel. That's
Right.
why. But no, there's not that much to do in the winter. There is not. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but it is not that exciting. Yes, you get a couple days a week where you can go do cool stuff, but it's
Yeah.
ruthlessly freaking cold. Like I wrestled for 10 years. I had to
Yeah.
run every day in that horrible weather to cut weight. It sucked.
Yeah.
There is nothing positive to that cold
Well,
ass
you
weather.
can't go to like Sun Valley, which is like in Idaho, Sun Valley, which is like the resort to the uh, celebrities and stuff that go there and ski and stuff like that in Ohio, or
No, I had to go to Salt Lake
or
City to go skiing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you had to travel,
yeah.
and
There
all
was
that.
no good.
So
There was a couple hills that we called mountains to go skiing, but it was
right,
not.
yeah,
It was
not like
not
yeah,
worth it. Not
no.
even remotely.
I mean, part of the Rockies came through
Is
not
that what it is?
Boise.
That's what the mountainside is. It's part of the Rockies.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes
we
more
did
sense.
a job in it might take me a minute to remember, but it was up north of Boise and in this customer's house. Um, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for not remembering it, but I went up there with them to do that job. It was a water feature in the basement of this place because they were limited on how high they could go because of rules and regulations in the town in Idaho and stuff. But there was the Sawtooth Mountains range that went through there, and we stayed in a condo that he rented out. That the background was the Sawtooth Mountains, and just the most unbelievable scenery and stuff you could imagine. And that was you're in awe when you don't see that type of scenery and you get up in a place and that it just that alone was like worth the trip. Not even the job itself, just being able to look out and see this just magical mountain range and just everything out in the valley that came down through it and stuff like that. God, I'm gonna kick myself in the butt
It's
for
okay.
not remembering this, but yeah. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to move from there either. Yeah,
So,
I'd be happy.
all right. So after this journey that you had with Dion for a few years in this relationship you created with him and going to Concrete Core and getting to know everybody and in all essence being the introvert following the extrovert and selling your product with all of that because he is the go-getter and you are the let me show you how to make it look good. I don't really want to talk to you, but let me show you how to make it look good, you know?
Yeah,
And out of nowhere, he's gone.
yeah,
You lose him. I mean, it's a shock to the entire industry that knows the two of you, that knows your relationship, that knows concrete or Decocrete. It comes out of nowhere.
yeah.
In any other situation, if it wasn't for Decocrete, most people wouldn't know this story.
It probably, yeah, yeah,
But we spend years going there, watching the two of you as this team, doing all of these vertical conversations, and all of a sudden he's gone. And it is all of a sudden. There's no warning. There's no medical condition that he has that where you guys know there's a chance of. It's just out of nowhere. He's 100% gone. Is that correct?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah.
Did you know that there was something going on, or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I knew he was struggling. I was in constant contact with his wife throughout the process, and knew that it was going downhill.
What did he die from?
COVID. Yeah.
Really? It was COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. He got put on a ventilator, and that was it. After that, it was done. And the thing I always made fun of him, and looking back, I'm like, ugh, was he'd get sick, and I'd try calling him, maybe a couple days go by and I didn't hear from him or something, and he'd call me back. He's like, "Oh, I just been sick," and so when he would get sick, he'd kind of shut down. It affected him pretty hard, more so than I guess when I would get sick. I kind of compared it to when I would be sick. He would he'd get sick, and I think when he contracted COVID, it was that type of thing, and he kind of just it was the lung thing. His lungs, he lost his lungs pretty much through the deal, and you can go to all this stuff about they should have never been put on ventilators.
Correct.
And all this stuff.
Yeah. Right.
But
we just didn't know any better at the time.
Yeah, right. And he would shut down and not move. He'd just lay there. I remember talking to him, but just when he would be sick, and I'm like, "Hey, you gotta get up. Get up. Just try and get up and move around. Just walk the house, whatever." So when he got COVID and he got it pretty bad, the same. He kind of did the same scenario, and unfortunately was really laboring to breathe, and it started settling in his lungs. And I guess the option, like you just said at the time, was that's what everybody did, just threw people on the ventilator, and it just made it worse. It kind of blew up his lungs, and the scans and all that stuff showed that all the scar tissue and everything from either COVID or being put on the ventilator. Now that we kind of understand that more,
right.
There was no coming back. And unfortunately, his wife, Dawn, had to make the call to, with the doctor's discretion and advice and what was going on, to let him go.
Man, that sucks. That's hard. It's one thing if you die from cancer or you die from a car accident or all the different things that could happen, but we've heard so many stories over the last 5 years of the deaths from COVID and the miscommunications about it, whether they're right and wrong. You can listen to Joe Rogan and think that everything was wrong in the first place, but we don't know that. We can't sit here and say that anything that the government did was right or wrong. We don't know that. We're not going to know that for decades, to be honest with you. We have no idea, especially when you're married to a molecular biologist who can explain a lot of these things to you. And it all looked perfect in science at that point. And that doesn't mean it is. It's the same thing we were talking about with everything we do. There's exceptions to every rule. And it sucks that he was an exception to those rules. It really does. I had no idea it was because of COVID. That's what I mean. Yes. Yeah. That because he had other issues physically. If he was getting, if it was hard for him to get out of an illness in the first place, it makes perfect sense. And who knows? We can't sit here and say it was because of the ventilator. We can definitely say that if he had a history of fighting illness in a negative way, that illness was going to mess you up period.
Yeah.
Because we do have proof of that.
Yeah.
That's a tough
Yeah.
one, man.
It's a shame. Lost a visionary,
We did.
just an crazy fun guy, and just could, we leaned on each other so much. His work would get slow, and he didn't know what he was going to do, in certain time periods through our relationship. And I'd, try and pump him up and be positive, and like, stuff's going to come, you got a bunch of bids out there, and we would both go back and forth. I'd call him and they'll be like, man, blah, blah, blah. And it was always positive, interactions, and he would make me feel better. And, at the end of it, we'd be like, man, thanks. I needed that or whatever. And, it was always positive with him, which made me want to be positive and a better person,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. I 100%, every time talking to the two of you, he was the positive one and you were the negative one. 100% all the time. You always looked at the negative side of every situation. I was always battling with you going, really? And sometimes both of us would look at you and be like, really? And I know you don't remember all these moments, and I don't have details, but yes, there was a few times when him and I were on the same page and you were not. And a lot of it was because you were like, I just want to go upstairs and hide in my room right now and not talk to anybody.
Yeah.
It literally was the bottom line to a lot of it. So what people don't know, back to how our relationship really moved forward now that we've brought up Dion and know the story behind it all, is that the last year when we were together, you were wearing a hoodie and I was like, you always wear a hoodie. And you were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I can show you proof right now that you're always in the middle of everything that's going on and you're always wearing a hoodie. And you're like, no, I'm never in the middle of everything going on. I don't remember what you're talking about. And I was like, I can prove it to you right here, right now. And I went back in time and I found the exact moment where there's a whole audience around you going, ah, and there's you in the middle of it with your hoodie on, just like, whatever, don't care to be here.
Made me sound like such a bummer.
You were, and it blew your mind that I, one, documented that first and foremost,
Yeah,
and two, was aware of it and recognized it and kind of like threw it in your face and caught you off guard by it. And you were just like, there's no way. And I'm like, no, this is how you've been. Are you going to change? Is it time for you to like go, it's okay to move on? Because this was after Dion and you were bummed for a couple of years. And I totally agree with you. I'm not arguing that point. I wasn't trying to change that.
Yeah.
Yes. And we both are, but you're closer to him, so it's a bigger ordeal for you. But I was like, look, dude, you're here for yourself now. What are you going to do about it? And I'm really proud of you for doing the competition this year for that exact statement, honestly. Because last year you would have said no to it. 2 years ago, you would have said no to it. You would have been like, without Dion, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And it was great to finally see that you're starting to move on mentally, personally, not forgetting in any way, shape, or form, but moving on personally. It's time to. You have to. Because you're an incredible person. Why not? It's not about Dion. It's not about the two of you. It's about you now. It does not matter anymore. It's time to move on and show the world who Jeff Kirt is, not who Jeff and Dion are or who Kirt Bag is. It's the Jeff Kirt show now. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I know it's a lot to swallow, but there's nothing wrong with that, man. And I'm glad to be a part of that growth, because I was in the right place at the right time to help you see
You're
that.
part of it. Yeah. For sure. That was that moment with the hoodie stuff and that conversation was, for me, it was kind of a relief because it was you were jabbing me, and it was a good time, but I needed that
Correct.
for some reason, whatever divine intervention happened at that point, or however it worked out, that was the turning point for me in our relationship. I think.
I agree.
I think that was it for me, and I needed that.
And how
I
we
would,
moved forward from then, like back to the point of the story a couple weeks ago, and where we're at now and doing the shots together was we both said to each other, or I think I forget which one of us made the joke of like, you know what? Why don't we like get together every Friday and just have a shot, just have a
yeah,
moment, just to chat, just to say hi, and do a shot together and recognize that we're here, and life is good, and there's no reason to look back. Let's look forward.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
didn't do it every week as much as we
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to.
yeah,
And there was weeks where one of us was ready and the other one wasn't. It
yeah,
was complicated last year.
yeah.
But it
But
started
we
with
kept trying.
but
We
it started
stuck
with
with
the
it.
Decocrete show where we finished an entire bottle of tequila, an entire bottle with maybe a couple other people,
Oh,
but 90% of this was the two of us.
yeah, pretty much.
And luckily I brought two bottles because I had another one for everybody else. you know, but it broke that ice and gave you that ability to go, okay, there's, and correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong on this, but it gave you that ability to go, okay, I know Dion's gone, but there are other people for me to relate to and to be able to move forward in my career with, if that makes sense. Did I say it right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I always felt through that whole period of time, and not that it was a bad thing. Um, I kind of, and maybe I did. Maybe it was because I didn't have to, because he was so good at it. But I always felt like he's the visionary. He was the one that came up with the concept. I was just the one in the background trying to put pen to paper, and if it wasn't for his vision of this kick-ass thing, it wouldn't come to fruition anyway. So I didn't feel like I was as talented and as big of a personality as he was because of that. And so I kind of put my, what, sort of myself on a shelf and relied more on him for the cool shit. It was Dion's, it was always his cool shit. And, uh, you know, anybody could do it, put it, put it in pen to paper.
Sure.
So, for years it was like that, and no animosity. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. It was just what it was because he was so good
No, no,
at
no,
that.
no animosity. It's the exact
Yeah.
opposite.
No.
I'm not even going to say that you were riding his coattails because it was Kurt bag. It wasn't Battles bag.
No. It
It,
was.
so you weren't riding his coattails. It was that you guys had this great connection because you were capable of creating the idea, and he was great at developing the idea.
Yeah.
And the
But
two
he
of you were
carved
an
as well.
incredible team. I didn't say, yeah, you two were an
Yeah.
incredible team because you needed the other person to push the envelope a little bit farther for you to
Yeah.
build it from that point on.
We needed each other to take the vision to reality.
Yes. Yes. And it's hard for me to say I disagree with you. Knowing you as much as I have and seeing all the stuff you do, I get your point that he was way more creative than you. But from what I've seen since he's been gone, I don't know if I agree with you. I think you can do it. You don't need him. It's just hard for you to wrap your head around that.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. Yeah, I, I mean, yeah. But knowing knowing the projects or being part of the projects that he created, these big projects. We were in car dealerships doing features in the middle of their showroom. Um, that took up a significantly large area in their showrooms, um, and stuff like that. At zoos, doing these things that he put the time in to bring it from an idea to we're there carving the stuff. Um, so I think that was, and I couldn't do that. Like I said, we were talking about earlier, being able to just sit in like a fly on the wall on him presenting stuff to people and all that. And whether it was a customer that was spending $10,000 or we're in a car dealership with a customer spending $250,000. Watching that all come together, and I would try and put myself in his shoes and say, could I do that? Could I actually bring these people in and bring them to my world and what I'm thinking and make them excited about it and sell them on that? And they would pay more than that at that point because they were so into it. You know, I don't know if I could do that
I don't know if
at
I could
all.
either. I think that's one of my
you
biggest
know?
issues.
Yeah,
You know,
just amazing how he could bring people in like that. That was his. If I don't remember anything else, that's what I remember about him.
to that point, when you're teaching your training classes, do you teach that?
When I do trainings, regardless of whatever, I'm still just I'm a, I'm a, I'm just a worker. I'm just a hand, and
Well, I think
what
that's
I,
something you should bring up in your class if you're not. I think you should
yeah,
tell this
never
story.
really talked about that. Yeah.
I think that there's
Um,
something to be said about the sales aspect of what you just said compared to the difference, like we were talking about, a good idea done bad and a bad idea done good, and it should only
yeah.
be a great idea done great all the time. As much as I make that joke in the beginning of this conversation, there's something to be said about going into a trading class and going, how are you going to sell this? How are you going to
Yeah.
make that dream for your client? This is a
Yeah.
luxury. You have to get them to dream. And
Yes.
that is something you should push in your classes if you're not already.
Because of also what we stated earlier, this is a want.
That's It's a luxury.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a need.
Nope.
So
Everything in
it's,
decorative concrete is a luxury. Not
yeah,
necessarily just pouring concrete. They got to pour foundations. They got to pour a driveway.
it's engineered. A lot of
Everything
the
else we
stuff.
do after that point, 100% is a luxury.
Yeah.
Stamped. Everything about it. We
Yeah.
are in an industry that is a niche and it is a luxury. There is a perspective of knowing your market because of it. And if you
Yeah.
don't know that, you will not succeed in business.
You won't. You won't. And if you cannot, if you can't, you know, as artists, and I don't consider myself an artist. I go through a process. I've learned a process of how this stuff works and what I need to do at certain times through the hydration process and all this stuff. And when you need to when you need a texture, when you need to do this, and all that stuff. So I can't draw anything, on paper. I've just learned the processes that it takes, and I try and tell people that in the classes, you don't have to be an artist. Don't put that pressure on yourself.
Right.
This is a process, right? There's a it starts wet. There's a process of hydration where you go through, and then it gets hard, and then it's over. So during that process, there are steps that you need to take to create what you are trying to create,
Yeah.
whether it be texturing or carving or whatever. To this point, you need to do this. At this point, you need to do this. Now, if it's windy out or if it's sunny out, this process has to be faster. If you're inside or whatever, you got to slow down, go take a cigarette break or go eat lunch and then come back and do it. Whatever. It's a process. It's not, I don't want people, to think they have to be an artist to be able to do this stuff.
I agree with you. I think the same thing with what I do.
But you have to be a creative mind to come up with a concept.
You do.
And then you need to be able to know the steps of the process to be able to pull it off. Right?
But to your same point, there is the acknowledgement that there is the foundation of basics, the basic stone, the basic tile pattern, the mix match tile pattern. There is a foundation of the basics to teach you, to get you started. And the rest of it is the creativity, the dream. How far do you want to go once you get comfortable doing that basic foundation? Where do you want to go from there? And that's all up to you. And opening them up into that belief that they can do it. That's the hardest thing in my classes too, is you can do it. Just because I have a master's in painting and I make this look easy doesn't mean you can't do this in any way, shape, or form at all. It is,
look at the one guy you talked about with Banksy. I mean, look at that.
Don't try to do my level. Don't try to do my level. Try to do your level. I'm showing you what you can do, and dream that if you understand this basic foundation, you can get to my level. You can. Yeah. There's no limit to what you can get to, but start basic, start simple, keep it simple, work on that foundation, get that structure underneath your belt, feel like you are confident in doing that, and then you can start to be creative, start to expand, start to think outside the box, find ways to do stuff you've never seen before. There's no limit, but you have to start basic before you can get to that level.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And you have to have that confidence, like you say, when you're walking into somebody's home that is relying on you to pull off their dream.
Correct.
And that is a tough thing to do, So you have to have that ability to even do any of it. It doesn't matter what you vision. It doesn't matter what you think you can do. If you walk into that place and those people don't like you and they don't trust you.
That is a major issue. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't care what mix you use. I don't give a crap what mix you use. If you're using Kirt bag or whatever other mixes are out there, that has nothing to do with it in the big picture.
Yeah.
What matters is you being able to sell the project and then being able to pull it off.
Correct.
Regardless of what you are using.
Yes.
That's the minimal thing.
Be comfortable with whatever material you're using. We do not care. It does not. But you have to know what you're doing with that product to accomplish your goal.
Exactly.
Don't sell what you're not capable of doing.
Stop shopping.
It cracks me up how many people steal my images and advertise that they can do that. And I would love to see a sales call where they actually pull that off.
Yeah.
Because you never see them posting pictures of that idea of their own, only the dream that they can do it. You don't ever see them actually post that they did it.
Right. Yeah. The pictures of what I might be able to do compared to what I've done are two way different things.
It is.
That don't pay bills. What I think I can do doesn't pay the bills. What I've done and sold and had the trust of these people that you walked into their home and sold the project is the key.
Correct.
Yeah. It's the after.
Well,
not the before.
I want to thank you for your time. We've gone just,
way too far. I told you.
I knew. For the record,
we can go on. I think we could.
We could, and we can also do another one. We don't have to do it all at one time. I thought about stopping before the conversation about Dion for that reason. But for the record, to everybody listening right now, last Friday, 1 week ago from this conversation, even though you're going to listen to this next week, but 1 week ago from this conversation, we talked over video conferencing for the exact amount of time that this conversation is. And the whole
Yeah.
time we were like, shouldn't we be recording this? And I'm like, it's too late. I'm not doing it now. I've already had too many drinks, blah, blah, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a beginning, slowly becoming a typical Friday night for the two of us.
It is. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if everybody else out there is interested, I will find a way to do a short version of this with everybody having a drink together. If that's what the if that's what everybody wants, I will make it happen. But in the meantime, I I I can't express enough the awesomeness of the relationship we have now. Sorry for the loss of your best friend. And I know I'm not replacing that in any way, shape, or form, but I do appreciate our relationship that we have now. And I
Yeah.
look forward to where that goes from this point
For
on,
sure.
because it's only going to
Me
get
too.
better. It's not going to go backward. It's only going to go forward.
Oh yeah.
And so there's something to be said about that relationship that people get in this industry. And like you were saying earlier, how we have a lot of acquaintances, but we don't have a lot of friends. I'm
Yeah.
not that much different, to be honest with you. I really don't have a lot of friends. I'm an extrovert, but I'm a lot to handle, and I know that. And so I don't have the amount of friends that you would think I do. And it's a struggle for me all the time because you have to get used to my humor, my mentality, my ego, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm very fortunate that you caught that last year.
Yeah.
And it's nothing but better ever since then. And I just can't
Me as
imagine where
well.
it's going to go because of it. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. It's refreshing, and I do appreciate. So just to clear the record, sometimes I am an extrovert if I'm comfortable and stuff, and I do like talking to people.
Once you get
Oh,
on the inner circle of Jeff Kurt, you're an extrovert.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
easiest way to say it. Is once I got to the other side of the conversation, all of a sudden it was like, God damn it, will you leave
Whoa,
me alone for a second?
shut the hell up!
But no, you're right. It's not that you're an introvert. It's just that it's hard to explain. And that's why I wanted
It
to get you on the
is.
show because you're not the only one. There's so many people listening to this that are the same way, that don't
Yeah,
understand how to get out there. It's even to the same point of like when I interviewed Josh Whitfield and he was like, "Well, I was intimidated by it when I first met you." And I was like,
yeah,
"Why?" All you had to do was say hi to me. If you say hi to
right.
me, I'm a chatty person.
Yeah,
But if you don't initiate that, I don't know you want to talk to me.
right.
And on top of that too, like while we're doing our demonstrations, we don't have time to talk.
No,
And my question to him was, well, okay, in the evening, why didn't you walk up to me at a bar and go, "Hey, I'm Josh. I would like to talk to you." No problem whatsoever.
yeah,
So for everybody listening, in the next year at Decocrete and everything else in the future of every time you see us, there's no reason why you can't come say hi to us at all. At
yeah,
all. Anytime. Whether it's while we're doing a demonstration, whether it is out at the bar, whether it is at the hotel, don't ever hesitate to say hello to us and introduce yourself because we do want to get to know new people. We do want to be a part of this industry for the long term. And there's no stopping the future of decorative concrete in any way, shape, or
yeah,
form at all.
yeah. I don't want to. My goal, and really, it's never been, as we, somewhat discussed, is to be something or some weird, like anything in the industry, as far as, um, like, I don't, I don't want to be something. That's not my goal in any of this, nor has it ever been to be somebody that has admiration or any of that stuff. That has not ever been my thing from the beginning. But now, um, what I want is the industry to continue, whether it be any type of decorative,
Right.
whatever it is.
Now, it's a very good
Um,
point because we're getting to the age where we are not the forefront of the industry anymore. It's time for the
yeah,
next generation to step up and
yeah.
take over and show the world what the next
Sh-
generation has to offer.
Show me some stuff. Yeah, I want to be impressed
Yes,
right now.
I
I
agree.
don't want to impress.
Yeah.
I don't care about that, right?
I disagree, but
If you
I'm going to let
impress
that
me,
go. But I'm going to let that go.
yeah,
But yes.
if you impress me with something, not that I'm some judgmental curmudgeon of any sorts, but um, that's what I want to see, you know. And then being at the expo and then meeting these people, like Josh uh, said the year before last year, he was over with me in the learning zone,
Right, right.
throwing up mud and carving and stuff. And then the next year, he's in the competition and what placed, right?
Yeah, I got second. Beat both
Second.
of our asses, yes. Only
Yeah,
cared about
yeah.
beating my ass. Didn't care about beating your ass, but,
Right.
publicly made it very
So
clear that he beat my ass.
I am in no way like have any harboring any bad feelings about
No,
that.
no,
To
not at all.
me,
No.
that is like heck yeah.
Yeah,
I mean that's cool.
yeah,
That's awesome, you
yes.
know? Um no bad feelings or anything about that because I'm over. I'm tired. You know,
Well, I'm not going to say I'm
I,
over it, but I
I,
am tired. But no, but it doesn't bother me because it is what it is.
yeah,
It would bother me if what they did was complete crap. That would be a different conversation.
yeah,
Nobody did complete crap in this competition in any
no,
way, shape, or form.
no,
We have nothing to complain about, nothing to be sad about, nothing to be disappointed about. It is what
yeah,
it is. Someone had to win, someone had to lose. It
yeah,
is completely okay. I appreciate the ridiculous amount of reaction to me, like Dave Ribello said it best in the last interview of like, we weren't sure if you were going to win just because of your name and because of your
right,
following. And I'm
yeah,
sitting there going, I don't have a following. What are you talking
yeah.
about?
What following?
What's following? Nobody
Yeah,
cares
what do
about
you,
what I do. Like we don't understand the audience. We don't understand who's paying attention. We
yeah,
have no clue, both of us, as to whether we're the biggest name in the industry of all time or nobody.
yeah.
We don't know. Or any
Really
gray
doesn't.
area in between. We have no
Yeah,
clue. We have no perspective. Yes, I have a lot of people reacting to what I do, but that doesn't mean that the industry has any clue what you and I are doing on a regular basis at all. It doesn't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's okay. But I disagree with you that you don't care if anybody knows what you're doing at all. I do disagree. We've talked about that before. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that there is a legacy behind what we're doing, or we wouldn't be doing it.
Well, the thing I'm most proud of out of everything is the fact that Decocrete took over Kerbag and kept my name on on it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge.
I
And
mean,
to your same point too, again, Decocrete is the center of this entire conversation, and it's not because we just did a show, we do a bunch of shows with them, or anything like that, or that they
I
they
am not
ever.
being paid by Decocrete
I'm
by any means
I
for
am
any of
not
this.
at all.
Yeah,
But hats off to them for showing us the respect and making sure that the industry knows who we are.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
huge.
That's true. That is. Yeah, when they, for the amount of years that we have been in this and the amount of times I'm like, man, they need to change it up. I don't think this is good that we just keep coming back, the same people and doing this and everything, but they don't care. They want you there. And
Yes.
that's the most important thing. They're expecting you to do something different and relying on you to do that.
They've
and
never told us
you.
what to do. They've never given us
No.
ideas of what to do.
No,
The easiest way to say that is the time when they were like, "Can you do a mural on the floor?" That is the most that they've ever given me feedback at all. And then they apologize for that ask because it's so hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
They've never requested something from us. It is, here's your space. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah. Do your thing.
Yeah. Be
Pretty
yourself.
much.
And it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, man, always. We're going to keep this conversation going. What people don't know is as soon as we click out of this, we're going to keep doing it. It's not going to stop. It's Friday night. It's going to keep rocking.
It's Friday night.
But we got to stop somewhere.
All right. How long is so now I'm going to put you on the spot. How much of this are you going to keep and put out there?
Well, we're at almost 3 hours right now. So 2 hours and 40 minutes is probably going to be legit. 2 hours 45 because of our breaks. Yeah, all of it. I don't hide anything. I have no reason to hide anything.
Pretty good. Maybe that's a test one to see how engaged we can keep people for 2 hours and 40.
Oh, they're probably going to watch about 10 minutes of this and give up and walk away. That's about all they're going to get.
Click. I want to see some car crash or something. This
is too long. Only Joe Rogan can do this. We can't do this.
Joe Rogan does it. Now, come on now. There's some goals there.
Well, thanks, buddy. I love you, man. Like I said in the other interview, our relationship changed everything. I don't think either one of us will realize the magnitude of how our relationship changed and where it's going because of it. And I can't get enough of it. I want some more of it. And I look forward to every aspect of it. And thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Anytime, Rick.
Awesome. Love you, man.
All right. Love you too, brother.
I want to thank the Decorative Concrete Expo for sponsoring this show. Follow me on all social media platforms. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening and have a great day.